Joseph Tedrick and his estranged wife Tara are suing Joseph's former neighbors, Myra Barranca, her sister Betsy Barranca Roca, and Matthias Mock for vandalism to their vehicle.
All rise. Now, this is case number 19 on the calendar in the matter of Tedrick versus Barranca Roca Mock.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. and Mrs. Tedrick, it is your claim that the three defendants vandalized your car, scratched it all up, slashed the tires.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendants say that they had nothing to do with the car being vandalized. How do you know these people?
They used to be my upstairs neighbors.
How long were they your neighbors?
For probably about 8 months before they got evicted for vandalizing the car.
Did the three of you live together?
No, I was the only one that lived there. I was his neighbor.
And where did you live?
Me, I live the same place with my mom. I don't live with her. I didn't live with her.
And what about you?
What about me? That was actually my first time over there.
How do you know them?
How do I know them? They are my friends.
How long have you known them?
How long have I known them?
Why do you keep answering my question with a question, sir? I'm not going to give you enough time to think of an answer that's not going to be honest. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. How long have you known them?
3 years.
Each of them?
No.
Who do you know 3 years? Raise your hand. Raise your... What? Don't touch her. Where do you know him from?
School.
How old are you?
18.
What do you do for a living?
I'm babysitting and I'm in school.
What about you?
What I do? I work at Safeway. That might have been why I repeated the questions you asked me.
Why, everybody at Safeway repeats questions?
It reassures me for my answer.
It's irritating.
Sorry.
What do you do?
I'm an outside vendor assistant. I purchase all our outside goods for our company.
Okay. On what night did this happen?
I believe it was the 28th of October.
Tell me what happened.
Basically, that night...
Not basically. Tell me what you saw, what you heard.
Okay. Myra and her sister...
Who's Myra?
Myra's standing right to my left. Her sister is in the middle.
So you're sisters?
Yeah. Yes.
Myra and her sister, you could hear, me and Matt were sitting at my house watching TV. You could hear, loud stomping on the ground, partying. They came down to my apartment and knocked on the door. And actually, I had known them before, and we were, somewhat friends. We were nice to each other and, cordial. Basically, I told them they could come in. They came in, and...
Why did they want to come in?
Just to visit, I guess.
Why did you want to go to visit in his house?
That's not true, Your Honor. We were coming home from the party, and we had invited...
Coming home from what party?
A friend's birthday party.
I thought you had people at your house.
I did. We were at a party, and then some of the people from the party came over to my place.
How many people?
Maybe 10.
So first you were at a birthday party?
Yeah.
Until what time?
Maybe like 1 o'clock.
Had there been drinking at the birthday party?
Yes, I have been drinking.
And what about you?
Yes.
What about the other 8 people at your house?
Some of them, not all of them.
Did you drive to the birthday party?
No.
You walked?
No, somebody drove me.
So tell me what happened when you came back to your house.
Like he said, he probably heard the footsteps, and he opened the door. I had invited him to come up to my place. He came up there, and we talked for a little bit. Then I went back down to his place.
Why? Is my question.
Because I didn't have any shot glasses.
And he
Plus
did
what?
invite her.
Was I looking in your direction? Did they teach you that at Safeway?
No, they didn't. And no, you weren't.
You went down to his apartment.
Right.
Well, that's what he said. And you said, no, that's not right. But you did go down to his apartment.
That's correct.
And you went down to his apartment because you didn't have...
Shot glasses.
Because you were continuing to drink.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she ask you to borrow shot glasses?
Honestly, I don't remember whether she did or not, but they stayed for maybe like 10 minutes, and then they kind of got like rowdy because they were drunk. They were starting to talk louder, and they said that I was mad dogging, is a quote, what they said, her boyfriend, and I don't even know who her boyfriend is.
You were mad dogging her boyfriend. I read that. What does that mean?
Like, all I asked him why he was always, like, being shady pretty much towards my boyfriend when he saw him, like looking badly at him. That's all I asked him. He got really offended about it, started arguing with me, so I started arguing back and called me and my sister a couple names. And then that's when he told us to leave. We did, and we went up to my apartment.
Okay, go ahead.
So I asked them to leave after they started saying you're mad dogging my boyfriend. The exact conversation was she said, why are you always mad dogging my boyfriend and being shady? I'm like, I don't even know what your boyfriend looks like. And I was like, and anyways, you guys are rowdy, you're drunk, if you guys can leave.
Where were you?
I was at home with our daughter at a different apartment.
What do you mean at a different apartment? You two separated?
Yeah, we're still legally married, but we're separated.
So you're here only because it was your car?
Yeah,
You didn't
we're
see
co-owner of the car.
So you didn't see anything?
No.
You weren't there that night?
We have another witness that was there that night, yes.
Okay, but you weren't there? Okay, you could sit down.
Okay.
It keeps things clear in my mind. Go ahead.
So after I had asked them to leave, that's when they started getting really mad that I was taking offense to what they said, started yelling, and they were right at my doorway, like in the doorway, and I was just, I won't lie, I said, you know, something derogatory to them, I can't remember at the time what it was, because they weren't leaving my house. Then I shut the door, and then they repeatedly pounded on my door, swearing, saying, let us in, no, we're going to do this to you, basically assault me. And I said, I'm not going to let you in. And then within 10 seconds, I could hear because our apartments actually have a door you have to get into before you can get into all the apartments. I heard that door open. They went around to my kitchen window, picked up a rock, and threw it through my window. So I immediately called the police.
Okay, but you didn't see anybody throw the rock at your window at that point? Okay, keep going.
So when the police came, basically, I didn't see anybody throw the rock, so the police said there's no proof, so they had to leave. So about maybe 10, 20 minutes later, I'm sitting in my living room with Matt watching TV. My sliding glass door is open, and I brought a tape of my apartment, my patio, exactly where I walked out, and turned to the left because I can see my vehicle. And I seen the 3 defendants, Myra, Matthias, all standing by the car. And the reason why I got up to look to start with was because I heard a loud psh, and those were my tires being popped. So I looked out.
When you say pop, pop with what?
I'm assuming with a knife when we took it to Les Schwab to get...
But they were slashed. It wasn't just the air being let out of the tires.
No, it had been punctured with a knife or something.
And you were there that evening, sir?
Yes.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Matthew.
Go ahead.
I was there that night. Joe noticed the loud slush sound and then asked me to come see what it was with him.
Come out where?
Out to the patio because he heard the loud noise and he told me to come out there. So I went out there and I saw those 3 slashed tires.
All 3 of them?
Yes.
Tell me exactly what you saw.
I stepped out, and then I looked over and then they were like on their knees by the tires.
All 3 of them?
Yes.
And then what happened?
So when I looked out there, I could see, obviously, there was people coming around to other tires to slash the other 4. They slashed all 4. And then you can see them standing up and circling around the car. And
What did you say?
I didn't say anything because I didn't want to go out and get in an altercation with somebody and get in any kind of trouble. I immediately called 911. I was on the phone with them while I'm watching them finish scratch my car.
You have the 911 call?
I don't have the call, but I do have the police reports.
I'd like to see the police report.
They were all wearing very distinctive clothes, too. They were wearing barmaids' outfits, so it'd be very hard to mistake their identity.
Okay, now I'll hear you. Who's going to speak?
I will.
Go ahead.
After I went down to his apartment, you know, we had the argument. I went back upstairs to my apartment. He was calling us names, and he was threatening to kick our butt or whatever. That's when I called the cops, and they had came and,
You
know,
mean he
told
left after you had the argument and he slammed the door in your face? He started calling you names?
Yes.
From inside his apartment?
Yes, that's correct.
From inside his apartment?
He was yelling through the...
From inside his apartment?
Yes.
Okay, so you called the police?
I called the police.
Go ahead.
And they came, and they told me to separate and no contact with him. We were upstairs for a little bit. We were going to 7-Eleven.
What were you going to 7-Eleven for?
Getting some food. And we had heard a broken window.
Just a second. Don't tell me what we heard. You
No,
tell me
I
what
had
you
heard a broken window.
Now, you were going to 7-Eleven. Where was the 7-Eleven?
Like 2 minutes away from my house.
How were you getting there?
We were driving.
Who was driving?
It's
not an answer.
She was driving.
The 18-year-old who was drinking.
Well, she wasn't like drunk. She had like a beer.
I had some drinks, but I wasn't.
Keep going. It's not getting happier for you.
And I heard a broken window from up in my apartment, and I didn't think anything of it because he is very violent. From the first time that he moved into our complex, his ex-wife had came up to mine and my roommate's apartment, you know, crying, saying that her and him got in a fight. She asked
Could you
us...
move on, please, to the 28th and the 29th?
All right.
I'm not interested in this social drama.
Okay, well then after that, there was a lot of people coming in and out of my apartment, and he had been talking smack to a lot of them. So a lot of them were mad.
And they overheard. Me being amongst the men, just letting you know.
So you overheard, too, all this bad stuff?
Yes.
And that made you angry?
Somewhat, yes.
Good. So that drunk and angry and leaving to go to 7-Eleven with an 18-year-old drunk driver, you went down to get your car. Is that right? Is that right?
Yes.
Right. Let's see what I have. I have you inviting 10 people to your house. all who had been drinking up until 1 o'clock in the morning. You who have said to me that, well, it is clear that somebody, because the police wrote in their report what they observed, so somebody clearly vandalized his car that night, right?
Somebody did, yes.
So it was either you or any of your guests, including him, who heard him bad-mouthing you and who got angry. That's what you just told me.
Right.
Right? You're responsible.
I'm responsible.
Yes. You're responsible. You invited these drunken people to your house. Not only did they arrive having been drinking at 1 o'clock in the morning, but according to you, you went down to his house to get shot glasses so that they could continue to drink. And if they didn't have shot glasses, they were going to drink out of their slippers. So when you invite a bunch of drunken people to your house and continue to give them alcohol, you are responsible for what they do. That's one of the prices that you pay for inviting people and providing alcohol for people who don't do the right thing. You got it? Now, not that I don't believe that you and your sister and Mr. Safeway didn't slash the tires and didn't scratch his car, because I don't believe for 1 second that you didn't do it. I believe either you did it or you importuned somebody else to do it or you participated with them. Anybody else want to say anything to me? Perfect. Young ladies drinking is always very unattractive. Very unattractive. Now, men drinking can be unattractive, but there is nothing more unattractive than a woman who drinks and who can't control her mouth and then can't control their actions. I'm not talking for Mr. Safeway here. Mr. Safeway knows exactly what he did that day. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,319. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Obviously, I could identify them. They were wearing distinctive outfits, barmaids' outfits.
He didn't see anything, so I don't know why he said we did it.
And if they want to lie about it, it's their problem, not mine.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Dos Santos versus Spearman, step forward, please.
22-year-old Jennifer Dos Santos is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Dwayne Spearman, for the cost of a plane ticket to Lisbon, Portugal.
This used to be your boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend anymore.
That's correct.
You and your family, I assume your family, were going to Portugal to visit relatives. It is your claim that you laid out money for him to go on that family trip with the understanding that he was going to pay you back.
That's correct.
Mr. Spearman says there was never an agreement to pay you back for the trip. You wanted him to accompany you. You wanted him to meet your family. And he didn't have the money, so you agreed to pay for it.
Yes.
Well, tell me about the agreement that you had with him, Mr. Santos.
I had spoken to him about possibly going, and I had wanted him to go. And he had always told me that he wanted to go to Europe, and he had wanted to visit several places in Europe. So I suggested for him to come with me, and he wanted to. So I purchased a plane ticket, and he had always told me that he was going to pay me back.
Why didn't he purchase the plane ticket?
He did not have a credit card, I believe, and he didn't have enough money to purchase it himself.
So he had no money?
Yeah, not at all.
Well, how could he go on a trip if he had no money?
Well, he had just started working in a new job, and he said that he was going to pay me back when he got the money.
Did you agree to pay her back?
Never.
Well, tell me how it happened, Mr. Spearman.
Well, we were dating on and off, and she originally went to see her parents down there. So she had the ticket to go down there. Well, we were broken up. We got back together. That's why she was going down there when I went. Sorry, a little nervous.
Try looking at me.
Sorry.
That'll make you even more nervous.
I know.
Go ahead.
I had to get the time off work at first, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do. When they said I could have the time off, I told her, all right, I could come, but I don't have the money. I have a bank statement that shows I didn't have any money. I was in the negatives.
She agrees you had no money.
Yes. She told everyone she was going to pay for me. She told my witness. She told my parents. Even on her life journal, I have a paper that says that she would pay for the plane ticket. I was like, why not?
Well, first let me see the paper that says she's going to pay for the plane ticket. Well, it absolutely says, I bought his plane ticket. He's visiting for 7 days. This is so blank. Fabulous. I want to show him so much blank. So much to do, so little time to do it. I have a good feeling about this.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I have a conversation that took place between both of us stating that he would pay me back.
I'd like to see it.
I highlighted some of the main parts, and there's 2 screen names listed. I don't know if you can figure it out.
He says, I said I'll pay you back eventually. I'm doing that for myself. Technically, though, I didn't want to go. You offered, I said yes. I'd win. It's your word against mine, but then you do agree to pay her back, sir, right?
He just kept hounding me.
No, that was the first time I had spoken to him since we broke up. And then I spoke to him afterwards, and he had told me that after that conversation took place, and he said he was not going to pay me back.
She's only doing this out of spite, though. She
no
just
spite.
wanted me to go. After we broke up, that's the only time this ever came about.
I tend to believe you.
Your Honor, may I see that for a second?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I step up and say something?
Absolutely.
I was there.
First, tell me your name.
I'm Andrew Palua. I was there the day that they told me that they were going to Portugal, and I kept on making jokes, you know, he's in debt, he can't afford it. She blatantly said it was a gift, and he did not have to pay her back on many occasions.
Just a second. Didn't you hear what I just said? I know that you had something that you were dying to get out and dying to say. But is there anything different from what you said than what I just said?
No.
Then you can sit down. Thank you very much. I have other things to do today. Have you looked at that now?
Yes, I actually had a comment about it.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm not denying it, but any person, I know ninth graders that could type this up and then bring it to court.
I don't care. Ninth graders, I got news for you. I couldn't type it up on that machine, whatever that machine is. And I've had more than a ninth grade education. The question is, did you in fact write it?
Yes.
Fine.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think it should be used in court, though, because anybody could lie.
Well,
it's not in me to lie, that's why.
Listen to me. If you had said to me, Mr. Spearman, I didn't write that, then I would say, well, you have to prove that he wrote that. But you did.
Yes.
I believe she wanted you to go. I believe she had a good feeling about your relationship, and she wanted to share the European experience with someone that she cared about. I believe that after you broke up, when you came back, then, Mr. Spearman, you're probably a man of good conscience, and you agreed to pay her, right?
Yes.
Now, how much was the ticket?
$1,101.
Okay. And I tell you right now that the expenses that you had while you were in Portugal were limited. Your parents took you out for most of the meals that you were there, and whatever other money that you spent, you spent. But I believe he has the responsibility to pay you back for his airplane ticket. You agree with that, sir?
No, but I'll respect it.
I'm glad, because that email, or whatever that is, that conversation that you had, suggests that you are a man of good character. You don't want me to think otherwise, do you?
No.
Great. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,101. That's all.
All is excused. You may step out.
Erna Rittenauer is suing her estranged son-in-law, Brian Hill, for a loan to pay his mortgage and for unpaid babysitting fees.
All rise. It's case number 102 on the calendar in the matter of Rittenauer versus Hill. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Rittenauer, Mr. Hill is your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law, and it is your claim that he owes you for a small loan that you made to him to pay his mortgage and for some babysitting services for your 3 grandchildren.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hill says that the mortgage payment was your idea. There was never any discussion of repayment for it, and he's going to tell me the story about the babysitting services. I want to start with you, Mr. Hill. How long have you been married?
Since '95.
And how old are your children?
10, 7, and 12.
How long have you been separated from your wife?
Since '05.
And how long have the children been living with you? You have custody?
Since '05.
Since '05?
Yes, ma'am.
Did your wife leave the house?
Yes.
Did she have somebody else?
At the time, no, I don't know. I don't think so.
But she left?
Yes.
And she left you with the children?
Well, when she originally left, she took the kids with her. The kids wasn't happy living with Miss Rittenauer here. The kids told Tina this many times. Tina told me over the phone that I could have custody. We went to court for the custody.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. Was custody adjudicated in court?
Yes. When we went
That's
to
all
court.
I have to hear. Custody was adjudicated in court?
Yes.
Did you and your wife make an agreement with regard to the custody of the children?
Yes.
So it was resolved between the two of you that you would have custody and she would have visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you get child support for the children?
It's court-ordered, but I haven't received the first check yet.
And how long has it been since you got child support from their mother?
I believe it was April or May of last year, '06.
Now, Ms. Rittenauer, when do you claim you made this loan to Mr. Hill with regard to the mortgage payment?
October 27th of 2006.
Tell me about it.
Mr. Hill was at my house stating that him and the children wanted to move back to his home because he was living with his mom, but he didn't have the money for the mortgage payment. I stated to Mr. Hill that I would lend it to him. He come back and said that he did not want any handouts and that he would pay me back. And I stated that he can make payments, and I haven't received a penny from Mr. Hill.
Your Honor, that's wrong.
Okay. Now tell me about the babysitting.
The babysitting, Mr. Hill asked me if I would watch the 3 children for him while he worked, that he would pay me. And I said, okay, $75 a week, and he okayed that. And I said, but he had to be home by 7 that evening. Well, Mr. Hill called me that Friday, because it was only a week that I watched him. That Friday, he called me, and he stated that he would be a few minutes late, that his sister was in a car accident, and I said, okay. This was at 5 p.m. I called him at 10:07 in the evening to ask him if he would be back by 8 to pick up the children, and he said, yes, Vern, I'm leaving now, and hung up on me. And so in the meantime, I was on the computer with the 2 granddaughters, and I received an IM through the computer, which was Mr. Hill's mom, saying all these harsh things to me. And then Mr. Hill came and blew the horn at 8 o'clock and picked up the children. And then when I got on my computer, I seen that I had 2 emails that Saturday, the day after, where Mr. Hill was apologizing for his mom. And I also have an email here stating that his mom wanted me to accept her apology as well.
So what does that have to do with anything?
Because Mr. Hill should have...
What does that have to do with anything?
Mr. Hill should have called me and told me that he was going to be late and not call his mom and have his mom to IM me through the computer. It was between me and him, not me, him and his mom.
He told me that he called you at 5 o'clock. He said his sister was in an automobile accident and he was going to be late. Didn't you just tell me that?
He said a little late.
So what? You're watching. You're with your 3 grandchildren. Do you work?
No, ma'am.
So what else do you have to do? If he said he had a family emergency, what's the big deal?
Because I watched him before, and he's never picked them up until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about one particular day. You watch the children for 1 week. According to you, you watch... Where do you think you are? You watched the children for 1 week. You said he was supposed to pick them up at 7. I assume the other days he picked them up at 7. Called you the last day, said, my sister was in an automobile accident. I'm going to be a little late. And he comes to pick the children up 1 hour late. And I'm asking you, you're the grandmother. What's the big deal?
The big deal is I watched him 4 months prior to that, and I never charged anything. And
you shouldn't charge anything.
And he was coming and picking the children up at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night when it's a school night.
Then you shouldn't have volunteered to watch him again if it wasn't satisfactory arrangement. If it wasn't a satisfactory arrangement 4 months before, then you shouldn't have volunteered to watch them again. It would seem to me that if you are the mother of a deadbeat parent, which you are, because your daughter is a deadbeat, she has not sent support for her children since April of '06, that if your contribution could be helping to watch your grandchildren so that he can work and support them, you shouldn't be here today asking for $75 for babysitting services.
Well, how can my daughter be a deadbeat? She's paying child support for the grandchildren.
No,
she's also
not.
giving medical insurance for them.
He hasn't received child support from her since April of '06.
Because he keeps dropping it. It's like this. If she doesn't do what Mr. Hill wants her to do, then he'll go file it. If she does what he wants her to do, he'll drop it.
Listen to me, madam. A parent has an obligation to support children that they made. It is irrelevant to me whether it's a mother or a father. If the father has custody of the children and the mother has no children, then what she's got to do is work and pay child support because the children need to be supported.
I understand that, Your Honor.
Right.
And
so if I was the mother of a parent who did not pay child support and my contribution could be helping to babysit with my children, I wouldn't complain because the father was an hour late because of an emergency. Now, you want to tell me the story about the mortgage?
July of last year, I moved in with my mother because I was having problems paying bills. I moved down in there, had the kids enrolled in school. Everything was going well. Tina called me maybe 4 months after I moved down there, wanting to know if she could take over our house that we had purchased together. That's fine. If she was going to do it, that was fine. I gave Tina $1,000 cash, and the $1,000 was meant to be for the mortgage payment, the electric payment, and the ground rent where we live. She paid the ground rent and the electric. She never paid the mortgage, took off with the money. And then she calls me a week later and tells me she can't afford the house. Now the mortgage payment's never been paid.
That's not true.
Don't speak.
The mortgage payment was never made. Verna started calling me, asking me to move back. I have phone records of this, how many times she's called.
I'd like to see them.
They're all highlighted in yellow. Verna
She
started
called
calling
you at your mother's house.
on my cell phone,
Or
yes.
your cell phone. Go ahead.
She called me wanting me to come back to move up there so she could be closer to the kids, because at this time I was like 150 miles away from her and her daughter. I told her, being I gave my wife Tina all this money, I didn't have money to move back. She agreed to pay the payment for me if I moved back so she could be closer to the kids and part a Christmas present, because it was November when we moved back.
Your Honor, that's not true.
You didn't want to see your grandchildren?
Your Honor, I do want to see my grandchildren. I haven't seen my grandchildren in 3 months. For whatever reason, I don't know. I've seen...
You told me that you were watching them in May.
Well, it's been 2 months.
Oh,
1 or 2 months. I do know.
You told me you babysat for them in May.
1 week
It's
she did.
June 6th.
I only watched them for 1 week.
Well, that's not 2 months. 2 months haven't passed, madam.
Well...
I'm asking you, didn't you want to see your grandchildren?
Of course, I do want to see my grandchildren.
No, didn't you, when he was living 150 miles away?
Yes, I do want to.
So that if Mr. Hill says that when you spoke, you said that you would take care of the mortgage payment, you telling me that you didn't have a discussion with him?
We did have a discussion about the mortgage payment. He told me he did not want any handouts, that he would pay it back. And I said, well, just make it in payments. And he said whatever was left, he would just pay it when he got his taxes back.
That's wrong, Your Honor.
It's wrong. I don't think I believe you, Miss Ridenour. I don't think I believe you at all. And what I find ludicrous is that you seem to have a reasonable relationship with your daughter because your daughter is here with you. And I assume that because she's here with you, you have a reasonable relationship with her. But you have 3 grandchildren. And why in the world would you want to antagonize over what amounts to no money? Certainly, you're not out any out-of-pocket money with regard to the $75 for babysitting services. Worst thing that you did was you took care of your grandchildren for a couple of days. Big deal. So the worst thing that you're out is a few $100s for a mortgage payment that allowed the grandchildren to be closer to you and your daughter. And I don't understand why you would antagonize the custodial parent of your 3 grandchildren. Antagonize him.
Your Honor, they even called Child Protective Services on me.
No, I most certainly did not.
One of them, too.
We did not.
Since I've moved back in November.
No, I most certainly did not.
Since I moved back in November, them 2 are the only ones that have been in my house. When I was moving back, I was carrying a dresser down my hallway. I tripped, and my back hit the wall, which put a hole in the wall like about that big. Whoever called Child Protective Services told them that I was abusive, that I didn't have food in the house, that the kids were going to school dirty, there were the hole in the wall, stuff, you know, just made up a bunch of stuff about me. Well, Child Protective Services have a lady in my kids' school all day, every day.
That is not true, Your Honor.
This lady sees my kids all day, every day. The lady pulled the kids out of class, asking them a bunch of questions, if I ever hit them, if we have food. And the call went through to Child Protective Services on April 16th. April 12th is when we went to court for child support.
Gotcha.
That was the following Monday.
Gotcha.
Thursday, when we went to court on the 12th, that next day was Friday. That's the day she agreed she didn't want to watch kids no more.
Gotcha. Your case is dismissed, Mr. Rittenauer, and I would suggest you try very hard to make up with Mr. Hill so that you can see your grandchildren. That's all. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
For me to make up with Mr. Hill, see my grandkids,
It's all stemming back to trying to hurt me.
I guess I won't see them.
Trying to get the kids back with her. That's all it is.
I hate to say it, but that's just the way I feel.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Trammell versus Moore Barclay. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Christopher Trammell is suing his stepfather-in-law, Orlando Moore, and his son, 16-year-old Kendall Barclay, for the cost to fix his Chevy Blazer.
Mr. Trammell, I assume it's this young man who is your wife's half-brother?
Yes.
And you're his father?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, this young man, whose name is?
Kendall.
Kendall, came for a visit.
Yes.
Visiting his sister, and you opened your house and said, sure, he can stay with us. It was during a holiday period?
Well, the February recess.
And while he was there, without your permission, he took your car and he crashed it.
Yes.
You want his father to be responsible for the damage.
Yes, ma'am.
And his father said, you know that he's nothing but trouble and that you should have watched him more carefully.
Well...
That's his defense. Why don't you sit down for a moment, sir? I'll get to you in a minute. Kendall! Are your hands in your pockets?
No.
Perfect. How old are you?
16.
Do I make you nervous?
No.
It's unfortunate. I will try to change that. Why would your father say that you're trouble?
I am.
What do you mean you are?
Sometimes I make trouble.
You make trouble at home?
No.
Where?
On the streets.
But you've never been in trouble with the police.
No.
You're lucky. Now, why did you decide to go to visit your sister?
Because I wanted to spend time with my nephew.
I don't understand you when you're mumbling. Make believe you're outside talking to your friends.
I wanted to spend time with my nieces and nephews.
That's a good thing. How did you get there?
Chris picked me up.
Your sister's husband?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So he's a pretty nice guy?
Yeah.
So he's a pretty nice guy?
Yeah.
So he's a pretty nice guy?
No.
Yes. Say yes.
Yes.
Do you have a driver's license?
No.
What does that mean to you when you don't have a driver's license?
Can't drive.
Tell me about when you took his car.
Well, they were sleeping when I took their car.
They were sleeping, so it was late at night.
Yes.
Where were you going?
I wanted to ride up to Wegmans.
I don't understand a word you said.
I wanted to ride to Wegmans.
Wanted to ride to Wegmans. And where did you get the keys from?
They're on the entertainment system.
So you stole the keys?
Yes.
And you stole the car?
Yes.
And what happened?
I drove up to Wegmans. I came back.
I don't hear you.
I drove up to Wegmans and then I came back. I was going to park the car because my brother, he parks in a certain spot.
I don't hear you.
I drove the car to Wegmans and I came back. And then I wanted to get in the driveway. So I was parked in the wrong spot, so I had to move it. I went and moved the car and then I took off and then it hit the next door neighbor's house.
You hit the next door neighbor's house?
Yes.
What did you do?
I didn't do nothing and the cops came. So then they asked me a few questions and I answered them.
Now you can stand up. Does your son go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
Does he have a job?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
He is currently looking for employment.
Well, when was the last time he had employment?
He is 16 years old. There's only very few jobs in Rochester for a 16-year-old to do.
So let me ask you this question, sir. Who do you think is responsible for him?
To be honest, when Christopher came to my address and picked Kendall up, I figured he'd assume full responsibility.
Yes, he wasn't supposed to see that anything happened to him, but let's say that your son, while he was visiting with his sister and her husband, committed a burglary. Would that have been his fault?
Yes, ma'am.
No. 16-year-old boy, who's almost as big as his father, knows the difference between right and wrong, and one way or another, sir, you have to teach him a lesson. And what lesson is he learning from this whole process here? He wasn't arrested.
No.
So there were no repercussions from the justice system, right?
As far as I know,
so what
yes.
lesson do you think this whole process is teaching your son?
I think he's pretty much learned his lesson. That
Why? What has he had to do as a result of this?
He's gotten most of his privileges taken away.
What privileges did he have taken away?
No computer, no...
No computer. What else?
He has his PlayStation and iPod taken away from him.
Taking away someone's iPod, sir, is not exactly punishment for destroying this man's car.
See, Kendall has an ADDH situation.
So do 40% of the children, according to statistics in this country.
Well,
they don't steal cars. They don't steal cars.
They do.
Yeah, so do a lot of people without ADHD steal cars. You know, don't give him an excuse, Mr. Moore. You give him an excuse for doing the wrong thing, that he's ADHD, and I guarantee you, you're going to be looking for trouble forever. Forever. ADHD has nothing to do with stealing cars. He wanted to go to a store. He took the car to go to a store. He knew he had no right to take the car to go to a store. That has nothing to do with ADHD.
Well,
that has to do with doing the wrong thing.
That's the frame of mind. That's why he takes the medication, so it keeps his mind focused off of things like this.
I have 11 grandchildren, sir. I reared and helped rear 5 children. I know all about this ADHD stuff. And I know all about parents who will make excuses for their children's bad behavior and ascribe it to a learning disability. So if that's, believe me, he was focusing on getting the keys and going to the store. Believe me. You're going to pay him, and he's going to pay you. And then there is a reaction to his action. And I guarantee you, sir, that's as good as any medication he takes.
So there's...
Any medication he takes.
So there's no responsibility on his side at all?
It would be different if he threw him the keys and said, take the car and go to the store.
I wasn't there.
He just told me what happened. He waited until they went to sleep, and then he went to the entertainment center where the keys were kept, and he took the keys. He told me that. Not him. You make excuses for him, sir. You're going to find yourself before a judge much more frequently than the one time you're going to appear before me. and you give him the excuse of having ADHD for excuse for bad behavior, you are committing a terrible,
It's not an
terrible.
excuse.
It's an excuse. One thing had nothing to do with the other with regard to his taking that truck that day. And if you give him an excuse, you are parentally doing him a terrible disservice. I, however, am doing him a service, because unless you want to be out $4,500 yourself, what you're going to do is you're going to have him get a job, and every penny that he earns he's going to give you until the $4,500 is paid off. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,500.
8-year-old Nicole St. Marie is suing ex-fiancé Michael Diaz for the cost to pay off his attorney fees.
Come to order, all rise. Now, this is case number 14 on the calendar in the matter of St. Marie versus Diaz.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Miss St. Marie, you and Mr. Diaz lived together for how long?
Roughly about 3.5 years.
And at some point, I gather, you purchased a home.
Yes, I did.
When?
I purchased a home in October of '01. I bought it on my own.
Just a second. Were you dating at that point?
Yes, we were.
Okay. When you purchased the home, where had you been living just prior to that?
Prior to that, in an apartment with my son.
Not with him?
No.
Now, when you purchased the house in October of 2001, did Mr. Diaz move in with you?
Yes, he did.
So that was the plan?
Yes.
And you put down the down payment on the house?
Yes, I did.
Fine. Was Mr. Diaz working?
Yes, he was.
What kind of work were you doing in 2001, sir?
At that point in time, I was a fire life safety supervisor.
You earning a living?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
You were contributing to the household?
Absolutely.
How much?
Everything was halfway down the line.
Is that right?
No, it's not.
What wasn't?
He paid me rent, half.
Just a second. He paid you how much a month?
He paid me roughly $650 a month in rent.
Actually, I have receipts.
Just a second. Miss St. Marie, I will categorize it as whatever I want to categorize it as. I know you're going to say rent from today till tomorrow.
Yes.
You were living together. You were sharing a bedroom.
Yes.
You were sharing a life together.
Yes.
All right. So don't categorize it as rent. He was contributing to the household, according to you, $650 a month. Would he give that to you by check or cash?
By check.
Were you doing anything else in the household other than contributing this $650 a month?
Yes, ma'am. The amount does exceed $650, which I do have all the receipts on.
I'd like to see it, please. The reason for these questions will become clear, Ms. St. Marie, because it is your claim that during the course of the relationship, Mr. Diaz had some difficulty with ex-wife over child support.
It was actually child custody, ma'am.
Or child custody, whatever it was. And you needed a lawyer. And according to you, Ms. St. Marie, you loaned him the money for a lawyer.
No, I did not.
Well, in effect, you did, because you went to the lawyer, you co-signed for him to get a lawyer, and he ended up not paying, so you paid the lawyer.
Correct.
And you want him to reimburse you.
Correct.
And that was, I think, $3,500?
Correct.
He paid you some?
None.
Okay. And when was that?
That was this past December.
Okay, so you actually lived in the house for about 4.5 years.
No. He moved out in November of '04, but we were still seeing each other up until April of '05.
Did you move out in November of 2004, sir?
I'm not exactly sure the date, but I know it was roughly in that time frame. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I've got the...
Shh.
Yes, ma'am.
How much, Miss St. Marie, was your mortgage on your house?
It was roughly about $1,470.
Okay. Let me tell you what his defense is. His defense is that when you moved into the house together, while the house was purchased by you, he was making half the mortgage payment on the house, which clearly I have checks here which amount to half the mortgage payment. And it was your agreement that if anything happened between the two of you, that he was reducing your mortgage so that he would get some benefit from that should you sell the house. That's your defense, really.
Yes, ma'am.
So you walked away from the relationship without anything. You sold the house. What did you purchase the house for? What amount?
$165.
And what did you sell the house for?
$350.
So you had a healthy profit.
Yes.
When did you sell the house?
November of '04.
Right after he moved out.
That's why he moved out. I was trying to end the relationship for a very long time.
Oh, okay. He moved out when
And
you
he wouldn't
sold...
leave.
Just a second. He moved out when you sold the house.
Correct.
Okay. Did you have a discussion with him at that time about any profits from the house?
No.
That's a farce.
Well, tell me about the conversations, Mr. Diaz.
Our initial agreement when we bought that house was bought under her name.
Her name.
But both of our incomes at that time. It was a stated income. So they asked for my income paperwork as well.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Judge, that's
Okay. I moved out of my apartment. I moved into the apartment with her because she had a large apartment with her son. And then from there, we moved in turn moved into the house. From that point on, I paid halfway down the line. The house needed a ton of work. I'm well versed in all matters, you know, as far as contract.
I see that you paid for half the mortgage, sir.
If you, the other checks that are at a different angle, ma'am, are also showing that I also paid for some of the electrical bills. And if you look, the writing is very neat. She physically wrote those checks out. I just signed my name to them. And it also states on those gas, water, you know, trash bills, whatever.
You wrote out all these checks?
If my name's on, if it's in my writing, then yeah, I did.
Right. You wrote out all these checks.
For the most part, ma'am, anytime she needed something, she would fill them out.
City of Long Beach. Who lives in Long Beach?
That's where our home was.
Our residence was in the city of Long Beach at the time.
Okay. Verizon, City of Long Beach, half the house payment. This is in your handwriting.
Yeah, but how long do those go on for? Because for 3.5 years, it was like pulling teeth to get money from him.
Whether it was pulling teeth or not. Listen, Ms. St. Marie, he does not have a counterclaim, but what he's saying is you had an agreement, and your agreement was that he was contributing to the household, and you were putting money into an account. So you were clearly taking the money that you wrote on his personal checks and putting it into your account.
But does he include the fact that I had credit card bills and stuff that were used for getting Christmas gifts for his son, to do birthday parties, to anything that we ever did together that went on my credit cards? I had credit card bills, but you don't see anything there that he's paying for my credit card bills.
Well,
he's
I don't know if
helping
he
out
had,
with
just
utilities.
a second, I don't know if he had any credit cards.
He doesn't.
Actually, I don't. I try to keep things, you know, on the, you know,
Because his credit's
paid
horrible.
it straight across.
That's why.
If you look,
That's why he couldn't get his name on the
Chrysler
house.
automobile?
she does. That was for like when she got a car. I gave $1,000 down for the car.
Okay, and I put $2,500 down on your car.
Is that right?
I think it actually was $2,000.
No.
And I paid back a portion of that.
Where is your check for that?
For the paybacks?
Yeah.
I think it might have been cash or whatnot. I don't.
Now I don't
have
believe
it.
you. Now you're talking through your hat.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You wanted him out. The relationship was over. You sold the house and gave him nothing.
Yeah,
so what
I
he's
was
saying?
scared for my safety. That's why I left.
I don't care whether you were fearing for your safety or not. We're talking business here.
And later today,
Under no theory of law that I know of is a car for a 17-year-old a necessity. That's what they have legs for.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nicole St. Marie says ex-fiancé Michael Diaz owes for attorney fees. Michael says Nicole kept the proceeds from the sale of their house.
And Mr. Diaz, I want you to tell me, sir, about this lawyer. What did you need a lawyer for?
I needed a lawyer because she sat there and she said I shouldn't have to put up with that kind of thing. She'd already gone through something similar with her son and her son's father. So we went in. I proceeded with the court case. She went in with me from the very beginning. She said she would help me out along the lines.
Just a second.
Okay,
Did
ma'am.
you sign for the lawyer?
We both actually signed for the lawyer.
I didn't ask you that.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you sign for the lawyer?
Yes, I did.
So it was your obligation.
Yes, it was my obligation.
It
I
was
did
your
initially sign.
obligation. It was
Yes,
your
ma'am.
kid,
Yes, ma'am.
your custody, your lawyer.
Yes, ma'am.
You signed for it, but the lawyer wasn't satisfied with just your signature, Mr. Diaz.
No, ma'am.
Wanted somebody to co-sign.
And why?
Which she readily
Just
agreed
a
to.
second. Not speaking to you. I don't think that he totally played it fair with him, quite honestly. I don't. His only problem is he doesn't have a countersuit. If he had a countersuit, I might deal with this differently, because I do believe that when you moved in together, you had an arrangement, and your arrangement was that you were treating this house as your joint property, even though it was only in your name, that he was giving you half the mortgage payment. You signed for half the mortgage payment when you wrote out the checks. The checks are in your handwriting, not rent. It doesn't say rent, Miss St. Marie. It says half the mortgage payment. So I believe that that was your agreement. I don't know why he failed to pursue that when you sold the house and doubled your money.
I just wanted to wash my hands of it, ma'am.
Okay. He wanted out, and he said, listen, she got a good profit for the house.
That's why I have something that said he didn't want to leave.
Whether he didn't want to leave or not, that doesn't make any difference, madam. You're not following what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you had an agreement with him. And your agreement was, even though the house was in your name because he had clearly lousy credit, I'm glad you finished my sentence, that you had an agreement with him, and your agreement was that you were going to build a life together. If you ever broke up or sold the house, you would do something with the profits from this house because you were equally putting in money and reducing the mortgage. And you chose not to do that. You wanted him out. The relationship was over. You sold the house and gave him nothing.
Yeah, because
so what
I
he's
was
saying,
scared for my safety. That's why I left.
I don't care whether you were fearing for your safety or not. We're talking business here. And the business is you had an agreement with him, which I believe you did, to give him some of the proceeds of the house because he was contributing to the house. According to you, he's paying half the mortgage payment. You sold that house and you doubled your money and you gave him nothing. So he's saying, well, I got nothing out of the time that I was living there, so she should pay the $3,500 for my lawyer. Mr. Diaz, if you had filed a counterclaim or if you did something positively in 2004 to pursue your claim, you might have a leg to stand on. You chose not to do that. So you can't come in as a Johnny-come-lately and say, well, going back 2 years now, she should have given me some of the money from the house, and I'm going to write off the lawyer. The lawyer was your responsibility. She paid for the lawyer, for your child, for your custody case, with a promise by you to pay the lawyer. You chose not to do that and to obligate her to do that. You cannot do that, sir.
I paid the majority of the lawyer, ma'am. The
Show me.
additionals.
Can I add to that? The reason why I co-signed was because I was asked to. I've never had an attorney before.
Show me your payment to the lawyer.
At the time, I was refinancing my current house.
Show me.
So my mother
Show
paid.
me the payment that you made to his lawyer.
There's one that my mother did because I was refinancing, and a check that I wrote my mother back for it when my refinance was over.
What's your lawyer's name, sir?
Hugh.
That's it. Well, clearly, she paid the lawyer $3,500 in order to settle this claim.
The agreement was between them was actually $1,700.
You have a copy of the agreement you signed? I'd like to see it.
All I have is them saying that I fulfilled my judgment
No,
and
I
won
want
from
to
the
see.
court.
I want to see the copy of the agreement.
I have these, and it says that it was a higher amount at the time, and we settled so I could get my name off of it and get it taken care of.
I want to see what you signed.
This is right here, North Center pre-mediation agreement, and then these as well are also part of it. I think the lawyer kept a lot of the initial paperwork.
Well, he got a judgment against you, $46.88.
That's why we settled in mediation, because I couldn't have a judgment on my case. That's something that would have followed me around for a long time.
Fine, so you settled for $3,500.
Correct.
Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm a woman that loves kids. I wanted to take care of him. We were engaged to be married.
The engagement fell through because she is someone that is insecure and has multiple issues.
He also had domestic violence against him.
It's a lie. It's a blatant lie.
And he was also verbally and physically abusive with me.
I am not the person she played me out to be.
I just couldn't handle it anymore, and I wanted me and my son out.
I've got letters and up to, the last 6 months that, saying that she still wanted me back.
Everything that he's done to take advantage of women and get them to pay for his bills, I hope that one day that all comes around and kicks him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jones versus Weidrich. Step forward, please.
Tina Jones is suing her ex-husband, Robbie Weidrich, for the return of money she put into their daughter's car. Robbie is countersuing for the cost to repossess the vehicle in question.
Mr. Weidrich, this is your former wife,
Yes.
and I assume this is one of your daughters.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
I'm starting with you, sir, because I'm going to do the Reader's Digest version of the facts of this case, which suggests to me that you made a mistake, an emotional mistake, but perhaps not a legal one. It appears that you loaned your daughter money to purchase a car, $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
She acknowledges that, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And your agreement was that she was going to pay you back $80-some-odd a month for the car. According to you, she only made one payment.
Yes, ma'am.
And you decided to repossess the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Which you ultimately did at some expense to you. You hired somebody to go and get the car.
Yes, I did.
Thus your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is she should have been more helpful in you getting the car back. But your former wife has a lawsuit, and her lawsuit says that she put some money into that car to fix it when her daughter had the car. And so you have to pay her back for the money that she spent in fixing the car. That's your lawsuit.
Yes, ma'am.
You have no case. Under what possible theory do you believe he owes you any money for the money you spent on your daughter's car? It was a gift to her. How old are you?
18. She was 17 at the time.
What difference does it make? You can make a 17-year-old a gift.
I just don't feel that I should have to pay for repairs on an automobile that we no longer have, that he took back.
Did he ask you to do it?
We had to do it in order
Did
to
he
get
ask you to do it?
No.
You have no case. It has to be a contract, an agreement, or it's a necessity. But a car isn't a necessity for a 17-year-old. That's what they have legs for.
It was a necessity for the
No,
girls.
it's not a necessity. Under no theory of law that I know of is a car for a 17-year-old a necessity. That's what they have legs for. That's what they have parents for. To take them where they have to go, take them to school, take them to after-school activities, do whatever they have to do. Car is a luxury for most people, especially for a 17-year-old. So if you paid for repairs for the car and she did not do what she was supposed to do with regard to her agreement with her father repossessed the car. But you also, sir, have to pay for the repossessing of the car yourself. She's not responsible for that. So neither one of you is owed any money by the other. But there is a larger issue here. I assume that you have been a reasonable father to your two children. You have two grown children. One's 18. How old is your sister?
15.
The children at some point lived with you, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Both children?
No, just Melanie.
How long did she live with you?
For almost 6 years.
Is that right?
I think so.
When did she decide to go and live with her mother?
After I got remarried, and she was uncomfortable living there with me and my new wife. So that's when she decided to spend more time with her mother.
Okay. Now I'm going to get back to what I said before. I'm sure you were a good father. You were a good father to your daughter for 6 years. Because you got angry, because I gather what she did was, as soon as this happened, you went to court for child support. Is that right?
No, it all started over a tax return. Since Melanie lived with me most of the year, he allowed me to claim her on my tax return this year. When he went to file, he found out he was going to owe taxes, called me irate. That's when he informed me that he was no longer going to help in any way with the girls in any support. That's when I decided that I needed to go for child support. I went in, filed for child support, and when he received the papers in the mail, that is when he called Melanie up and demanded the car returned.
Well, for the 6 years that your older daughter was living with him and your younger daughter was living with you, was there any child support exchanged?
None.
No.
So you paid for the child who lived with you, and you paid for the child that lived with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? And when Melanie turned 18, she came to live with you?
She was 17. It was May of last year.
When did you turn 18?
January 18th.
Of this year.
Then when did you go to live with your mother?
I don't exactly know. It was kind of gradual.
After the school year?
Yes.
So it was sometime during the summer?
I think so, yes.
So for 6 months she lived with you before she turned 18?
Yeah, at least.
6 months? And when did you sue for child support?
February is when I filed paperwork.
Now, you sued for child support for the child who had always been living with you.
Right.
But you had never done that before.
No.
Why?
Because up until that point, there never was a problem. If, we needed something, we could call each other and we would share the expenses. And at this time, he's telling me that he's no longer going to do that. He's not going to be financially obligated to either child.
Well, he was no longer obligated to this child.
Exactly.
She was 18. Well, it's too bad. After all these years of getting along well together, you probably should have let him claim one child as a deduction for last year, because she did, in fact, live with him for 6 months. You are claiming one child as a deduction. You probably should have let him take the other child as a deduction. But it's too bad that this broke down. And it's certainly too bad, Mr. Wiedrich, that the relationship that you enjoyed with your daughter is damaged over a car.
Yes.
Very unfortunate. Okay. Sounds to me as if he was a pretty good dad to you for a long time. The fact that you don't get along, you felt uncomfortable in his new situation. That's understandable. And it's also understandable you wanted to be with your mother for a little bit of time. That doesn't mean that your father, who was a good father for a lot of years, turned into a bad father overnight. Right?
Right.
Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
21-year-old waitress Victoria Nunez is suing her former friend, 23-year-old Philip Mitchell, for 1 month's rent, cleaning fees, and utility bills.
Order. All rise. Yes, case number 111 on the calendar, the matter of Nunez versus Mitchell. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. Nunez, Mr. Mitchell is your boyfriend's brother. I don't know if he's still your boyfriend.
No.
Okay, but you and the boyfriend had an apartment. You decided to relocate. Mr. Mitchell was looking for a place to live. He didn't have very good credit. He has a wife?
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend. And children?
One son.
With the girlfriend? Not married?
No.
Any particular reason why, sir?
Just hasn't happened yet.
Didn't think about it?
We've thought about it, but
Not ready to make that sort of a commitment?
not really that. Just haven't done it yet.
Anyway, they needed a place to live. And you thought it might be a nice idea if you let them move into your apartment. They moved into your apartment. Your name, however, remained on the lease. It is your claim that after they moved out, because of things that they did, you were required to pay the landlord a certain amount of money. Mr. Mitchell says that it's your fault, all of these things, so you pay. When did you move into the apartment?
I initially signed the lease in November of 2005.
And when did you move out of the apartment?
In April of 2006.
Was it a one-year lease?
It was a one-year lease, yes.
So he had until October of 06. Is that right?
Well, November. Technically, the lease ended November 30th of 2006.
When did you move into the apartment, Mr. Mitchell?
In April of 2006.
And what was the rent?
Was $800 a month plus utilities.
And you were diligent in paying your rent each and every month?
Yep.
When did you move out?
We moved out the end of November.
Did you pay November's rent?
Yes.
What rent does he owe?
Well, because they didn't give us 60 days notice to the apartment complex, then they were required to pay an additional month's worth of rent.
Was that in the lease?
Yes, it was stated in the lease.
Did you give him the lease?
I did give him the lease, and I have a copy here showing that he initialed when he signed on to the lease, showing that he did see that in fact...
I'd like to see it.
Okay. And I have a copy of his application to be signed onto the lease, and his initials next to where it says 60 days must be given to move out of the apartment.
Okay. So it is clear that you both understood that you had to give 60 days notice.
Yeah.
And your name remained on the lease.
Yes.
And it is Mr. Mitchell's position is that he gave the landlord 60 days written notice. So now, Mr. Mitchell, will you show me your written 60-day notice to the landlord?
Yeah, I gave 30 days notice, and I was going to work with them to pay off the last month's rent, but I do have a copy of that.
Well, so you didn't give 60-day notice?
No, not 60. I gave a 30-day notice.
But you had to give him 60 days notice.
And I had talked to them about that I didn't have 60 days, and they said that they would work with me on paying off the rest of the money.
First of all, you can't modify a written contract by an oral agreement. A written contract can only be modified by a written contract, sir. So you did not give them 60 days notice, and you were living there.
No, I did not.
So you owe the month's rent.
Well,
am I missing something?
I went into the leasing office and I said that I don't have 60 days, and they said, how long do you have? And I said, I can give you 30 days.
That's hearsay, sir. That's hearsay.
Okay.
So you owe the month's rent, and how much is a month's rent?
It was $800 plus an extra $150 for being outside of the lease.
Is that what you had to pay?
Well, I have it listed as $850, which is
perfect. So you see, $850. And what about the utilities?
The utilities that they owed were $500 at the move out. I have a copy of all of that here.
Did you owe any utilities when you moved out, sir?
Not that they had told me. I had been paying the utilities every single month.
Well, take a look at the utilities. How much does it say the utilities were when you moved out?
But part of this in here is the rent, too, like late rent. So it wasn't a total of the $500 for just the utilities.
Well, were you late in your rent?
No. Well, except for that last month, yes. So
well, the last month wouldn't account for $500, sir.
Yeah, and I don't understand how it's listed
I
here.
don't either. What is it?
There's a breakdown of everything. It's a gas reimbursement, late fees, rent, trash reimbursement, utility charges, water, sewer reimbursement, and the total for all of those combined.
Do you see that?
Yeah,
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
So is that what you owed?
Yes.
Is my question. Wouldn't that have been easier for you to say immediately?
Yeah.
What was that amount?
The amount is about $500. I just rounded up, Judge. It was $495. So
don't round it out.
Okay.
I have a machine here. It helps me. So far, we have $1,345. Now, what about the cleaning fees for the apartment?
The cleaning fees are listed here as well. There's different damages, cleaning, trash out, rent through the 60 days.
You already told me about trash. How much trash was there?
Apparently there was a lot because they're getting charged again for it.
Just a second. Mr. Mitchell, did you and your girlfriend do a walkthrough with the landlord when you left?
Not with the landlord, no.
With whom?
We didn't do it with anyone. We cleaned the apartment out. There was some trash, but it's listed here. It's only $5 worth of taking trash out. And so there were a few bags
Why
of
didn't
trash.
you walk through the apartment with either the manager or the landlord?
They didn't tell me that I had to do that.
Did you take photographs when you left?
Mm-mm.
Well, why should she have to deal with any of this stuff?
They also had to replace the carpets, and the carpets were damaged when we moved in. And I asked Vicky if the deposit that she left would cover the carpets, and she said yes. And she had like 8-month-old Great Dane puppy living in the apartments that completely trashed the carpets.
Is that right?
I take responsibility for the carpets. However, Judge, the carpet cleaning fee was only $50.
You said that they had to replace all the carpets.
I have the invoice of them having to replace the carpets.
You mean they had cleaned it before they replaced it? They're very neat people. What date did you move out?
November 30th?
This was in January of 2007.
That's when they replaced the carpets. That was the invoice from the carpet company that they gave the apartments.
No. Where did you get this from?
The apartments. I went into the leasing office and talked to her about what I needed, and she said that this showed that they had completely replaced the carpets.
But you weren't charged for that.
No.
No. So,
I don't have a copy of any of that.
no, she doesn't have a copy of that. Yes, you can take this and you can give it back to this lady. I don't know what she was hoping to get from that. So far, you owe $1,345. What were the rest of the fees?
They didn't return the key cards, and there's other damages here to different things in the apartment complex.
Did you return the key cards?
No, I do take responsibility for that.
Listen, Mr. Mitchell, sounds to me like you have to grow up a little bit. You didn't give 60 days notice. You didn't finish cleaning up the apartment.
I did clean the apartment.
No, you said to me you left some trash there. And there were some things. Did you have a young child in the apartment?
Yes.
So there was some damage in the apartment that I'm sure is ascribed to you and not her 8-month-old Great Dane. That be a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there are a lot of things that you didn't do. She shouldn't have to be responsible for that. And she lost a $150 deposit. She's not even asking you for that, which she should have gotten back. Can I see that paperwork, please? Anything else you want to tell me, Mr. Mitchell?
Just that when
Before
I had spoken...
pronounce sentence upon you.
I had spoken to the leasing office about the notice, and they had said, since it's not 60 days, we can...
Listen to me. That's hearsay.
I have a copy of when I said I was going to move out, signed by the apartments.
Does it say signed and approved, no penalty?
No.
Fine. Okay. Now, I want to see your check.
Okay. The check is from my older sister's account, and it's right here, and there's a payment of receipt.
I'd like to see it,
And also
please.
the statement from the account being paid.
When did they contact you?
They contacted me on April 10th, so 4 months after they had moved out, and I thought everything was taken care of. I found out that I had 2 days to come up with approximately $2,000. And if I didn't pay it, they threatened that they were going to take us to court, there were going to be more fees added, and I didn't want to ruin my credit because I have really good credit. I've always paid everything on time.
Gotcha. Okay. Where did you move to, Mr. Mitchell?
My aunt had a house that she rented to us.
So why couldn't you give them 60 days notice?
Because we needed to move into that house to get it. Because
Why?
we needed a bigger house. We needed something with more rooms.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mitchell. You said I couldn't give them 60 days notice, which means that you were going to the military, somebody was having surgery, but you're going to your aunt's house, so you move in a month later to your aunt's house.
We couldn't afford the last month's rent as well. And that's what I had told the
You're
lease
fast
officer.
talking, babe. You're a fast talker. Fast talker. Fortunately for me, I'm a faster thinker. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,865.01. That's all. Out. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't think I should have had to pay any of this, and it comes out like me looking like the irresponsible one.
It's not that he's a bad guy, it's just that there were some irresponsible things that happened, and I'm just glad it got taken care of.
I'm definitely not going to get onto a lease with anyone.
Thanks, Judge Judy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Golombieski versus Bano. Step forward, please.
Mark Golombieski is suing his ex-girlfriend, Pauline Bano, for the return of an engagement ring and 2 unpaid loans. Mark claims at the time he proposed, Pauline was married to another man.
Mr. Golombieski, you and the defendant were in a relationship. According to you, you gave her an engagement ring, asked her to marry you, and she accepted. And you made a series of loans to her. She went and married somebody else, according to you. And you remained friends, but you want your money back and you want your ring back. Ms. Bano says that you were just friends, originally not, but then she met somebody else, she married somebody else, and you, in a very friendly way, agreed to assist her when she was having some financial difficulties. And the ring was not an engagement ring, but a ring that was given to her at Christmas time when she received all of her other Christmas presents. That's the box. Can I see the ring?
100%.
Can I see the ring? I need a time frame for this.
That was Christmas Eve.
Oh, perfect. How did you meet her?
We met online in June of 2006.
And when did you meet in person?
A few days after we started talking online.
You live close by?
Yeah, we live in the same town.
Was she single at the time?
Yes.
Did you discuss marriage?
She brought up the subject of marriage maybe a couple of months after we'd met.
What did she say?
She kind of thought I was the right guy for her, and, you know, I got along well with her children and all that other stuff. And
So she's been married before?
Yes.
What about you?
Yes, I was.
Divorced?
Divorced.
And you?
Ben, I was divorced, yes.
Tell me about when you purchased this ring, sir.
When I purchased that ring was after Miss Biano came back. She had to go to Maryland for about a month or so, 5 weeks or so, because her son was injured in Iraq, and she went down there to be with him and to care for him down in Maryland.
In what month was that?
Most of the month of October.
October 7th is when I left.
Okay, go ahead.
We still contacted each other pretty much every day, emails, phone calls, things like that. You know, we kind of maintained the relationship the best we could. So I guess with abstinence making the heart grow fonder, things like that. When she came back in November and leading up to it, you know, I started thinking a little bit more about it, that we got through all of that and that, you know, maybe she was the next one for me.
But while, according to you and according to Miss Bano, while she was in Maryland, she met somebody else. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
And you married somebody else?
Yes, I did.
When did you tell Mr. Golombowski that you had married somebody else?
When I got home.
Not before?
No. When I got home from Maryland, which
When
was
did you
in
get
November.
home from Maryland?
November 7th, November 8th.
Is that when she told you she had gotten married?
No, Your Honor.
When did she tell you she
Mark,
got married?
you were crying
No,
on the
no,
phone.
Miss Bano, don't speak to him. When did she tell you she got married?
She told me she did not even get married until just before Thanksgiving, which would have been around November 22nd or so.
Okay, so
She
sometime
told me-
in
Yes,
November.
That's true. Sorry.
She didn't tell me this until about the beginning of the year, after Christmas, that she got married back just prior to Thanksgiving.
She told you after you had given her the ring?
Yes, Your Honor. About
Tell
a week
me
or so
about when
after.
you gave her the ring.
Basically, it was on Christmas Eve, 2006. Her family
You
was
were
there.
together?
We were together. We were at her house. Her family was there. My daughter was there with us. And we'd opened up presents and things like that. And
Everybody exchanges gifts on Christmas Eve. Sorry.
one of the last gifts that I had given her was the ring. And, you know, I let her know that I wanted to marry her, and she accepted.
What did she say?
She said she wanted to be together, you know, and she accepted
All
it.
right. Now, according to you, Miss Bano, at the time that this gentleman gave you this ring, you were married to somebody else.
Yes.
And you told him you were married to somebody else.
Yes.
Give him his ring back.
Thank you.
His.
I offered it back 100 times. He
Now he's got
refused
it.
to take it.
Okay, now he's got it. Got your ring back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now let's talk about these loans. When was the first loan?
First loan was on January 17th of 2007. She asked for $750 for a car loan.
Now, by that time, you already knew that she was married.
Yes, Your Honor. But I also expected us to, she was talking about an annulment. She was talking
Why
about
did she
divorce.
tell you that she wanted an annulment?
She didn't want to be married to this gentleman. The gentleman that she'd married to wasn't even with her. He wasn't up in the state of Connecticut. He was still wherever. I'd never met him.
Maryland.
The only time that I'd know that they were together, she said, is when he came up here to marry her in November.
But you still dated
Yes, Your Honor.
from November, December, and into January. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So according to you, and according to her, she needed $750. You gave her the $750, and according to Ms. Bano, she actually returned, and you accepted $350 on that loan.
No, Your Honor. Not on those loans. There was a time around Christmas that she wanted, you know, we were out shopping and she needed some money, and I gave her the $300 then.
What?
And she had repaid that money to me in the cash that she's talking about, I believe.
No, that is not true.
Okay, so why don't you tell me, Ms. Bano?
Okay, in the beginning, we did meet.
Listen, I'm past meeting. I don't care meeting. You met, you married somebody else.
Yeah, I
You
did.
want-
I met
Fine.
and I married somebody else. In
Listen,
December, I
Ray-
talked to him.
Quiet. Get to the $750.
I was telling him, we were talking. I told him I needed more money to put down payment on my new car, okay? He
Why
offered
did you tell
it.
him that? Why did you tell him that?
We were just talking in general. I wanted the car now. I didn't want to wait, okay? And he offered it, so I said, okay, I'll pay you back. I can pay you back half now, and I'll pay you back half the next week. He's like, that's fine. So on the 18th, I deposited his check into my account. On the 22nd, I withdrew $300, and I handed it to him. He took it. The following week, I offered him money again. He said, no, just keep it. Don't worry about it.
Okay, go ahead, cutie. When was the next time you told him you needed money?
I didn't tell him I needed money. We're just having conversation. Okay, in conversation, the second time in conversation, we were discussing, and I was saying, we were talking about my income taxes, how I hadn't been here, blah, 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 so on and so on.
Just a second. Don't tell me about income tax. I read your answer.
Yeah.
According to your answer, you were having some financial difficulties. So what did you need money for in January?
A car.
You got the $750.
You just said what I need money for in January.
February.
March.
You mean you're still stringing him along in March?
Yeah.
What did you tell him you needed money for in March?
We were just talking about money in general. He offered the money. He left a check on my kitchen table. My daughter picked it up. We asked, what is this for? He said, help you out with bills. I was like, thank you. We cashed it. We paid some bills.
Oh, let me tell you something. Mr. Golubieski, kiss the floor, look up to God, and say, thank you, God, because but for the grace of God, she could have married you. Then you would have been in real trouble, sir. Right now, the guy in Maryland has to worry about
He doesn't have to worry about
shenanigans.
anything.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
2-year-old child care provider Sandra Allen is suing her former employers, Dasher Lindsay and Ralph Isles, for unpaid babysitting fees.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 88 on the calendar in the matter of Allen versus Lindsay Isles.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Allen, you did babysitting for the defendants.
Correct.
On several different occasions, several different periods of time. And it is your claim that you are owed some wages because you were let go from your job.
Yes.
And you had worked 30 hours.
Correct.
The defendants, while they seem to acknowledge that you were owed wages at the time you left, they say they really owe you nothing because you made a false claim to Child Protective Services about the way that they care for their children, and they are counterclaiming in the amount of $3,000 because of what they say that you put them through. Miss Lindsay, when and where did you find Miss Allen to babysit for your children?
Well, Miss Allen was our children's first babysitter.
And you have 2 children?
We have 3, ma'am.
How long did she babysit for you?
This last time was for 9 months.
And prior to that?
It was off and on for a number of months.
And she was a good babysitter?
Yes, ma'am.
Took good care of your children? You felt
Yes, ma'am.
comfortable about leaving her with the children?
We trusted her, yes, ma'am.
Good. Miss Allen, then I'm going to come to you. I want you to tell me what happened that caused you to call Child Protective Services and when?
On numerous occasions, the kids would not have enough to eat. They would ask me, can I have some more? I was like, well, there's no more food. And I would offer them, like, okay, give me $100. I'll be more than happy to go to the commissary. It's base where the food's a whole lot cheaper. And, you know, I'll get the food and stuff like that for them. No big deal. No, no, no. We're going to go out. We have our monthly budget. And every end of the month, they go to Sam's and everything, come back with the same thing. And we do the same thing over. The kids' shoes were too small. I purchased a pair of shoes for the 4-year-old girl. We had to go up 2 sizes, and that was in the end of '06. I bought the shoes for her, and I started working for them in August. So that time, her shoes were too small. We bought the baby shoes. She was not a year at the time, and the kids were not getting baths. The dad would go out of town. Every other week, he'd go out of town. No big deal. Mom said it's going to be a long week. Could you give the kids a bath? And I would. But when Dad comes home at 5:30, I will not give the kids a bath. I come in at 10:30 in the morning. The kids had the same clothes on that I put them in the day before. I was like, did you guys get a bath? No, 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 Miss Sandra, could we get a bath? So I was like, well, it's time to get dressed, so we'll just change clothes, and we'll just go out and do our stuff and everything.
What did you tell Child Protective Services when you called them?
That the kids were being neglected and weren't being supervised properly.
Go ahead.
On one occasion, Miss Dasher told me personally that the neighbor down the street came in and told her that the oldest son was sitting, they have a 2-story house, and the son was sitting out on his window throwing things out. And the screen's missing, so he was throwing things out of his window.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Lindsay?
I'm a cook.
For whom?
For a company called Sodexo.
You work full-time?
Yes, ma'am.
And you, sir?
Systems analyst for the same company.
Well, you both have good jobs. You've been working for a while for this company?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any financial problems?
No.
Miss Allen, before you called Child Protective Services, did you discuss with Miss Lindsay and Mr. Lyles your concerns?
No, I did not.
You did not. Who is this lady?
It's my mother.
Would you step up, please? Tell me your last name.
Allen.
Miss Allen, when, if ever, did your daughter start to discuss with you the concerns she had about these children?
It was last year. She was seeing different things, and in our area they have a lot of yard sales, and she asked me if I would go out, if I could look for clothes in the children's size and shoes because they were too small, or the winter time, what she said, I'm not sure if it was the 4-year-old didn't have clothes that would fit her for the winter, so I was trying to find jeans and turtlenecks and stuff. And she would bring them over to the house sometime, and I would fix some lunch and everything, because she would say the cup of noodles, that was all they would be eating for lunch, and the sodium in that soup thing was kind of high for a child. So.
Did she discuss with you before she called Child Protective Services?
No, but she told me that, you know, something needed to be done about what was going on, and I told her, you know, do what she needed to do.
Okay. Do you have the report from Child Protective Services? I'd like to see it.
Yes, ma'am. I have two, the original when they first came out on the 20th, and the second from the actual caseworker.
How many times did the caseworker visit you in the 2-week period between the date that the report was received and the day they closed the case?
Just twice. The first time, which is A, and then the second time, which is B, when they closed the case. Because on the first visit, she stated that there was nothing but discrepancies in the claims, that the allegations that was made.
Okay. Miss Lindsay or Mr. Lyles, do you have any motive for Miss Allen to have placed this call after the years that she spent with you taking care of your children?
Possibly, yes, ma'am.
Well, I'd like to hear what you think the possible motive is.
That Monday, before the 20th, I believe it was the 16th, Miss Allen came in, normal day. I had spoken to her in regards to, we was paying her extra stipend for gas because she would pick our son up from school, so we give her extra money on top of her pay each week. Well, gas prices in our area were rising, and she came to me and she stated, Miss Dasher, the news said by Memorial Day, gas prices are going to be sky high. Can I please get more gas money? And I said, well, how much do you want? Because I was previously paying her $20 extra a week for gas. She said $30, and I said, fine, no problem. Okay, that was taken care of. Right before I was getting ready to go to work that day, I reminded Miss Allen that we were soon to be putting our two oldest children, the 4- and the 5-year-old, in private school, in which we was going to be paying for private school, and the only one that would be left would be our 2-year-old. And once we're paying for private school, we wouldn't be able to pay her the same amount that we pay her currently for her nanny services.
Well, how much were you paying her an hour?
$7 an hour during the week, and if she worked on the weekends, it would be $9 an hour, plus the
So
stipend
you wanted
for
to pay her
gas.
less than $7 an hour?
I didn't want
No,
to.
we were cutting the hours back. That was what we were telling her.
Oh, you were just cutting her hours back?
Yes, it was more like a pre-notice to possibly a 2-week notice when the children started private school. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, and what did she say?
She didn't state much. She said, well, that's fine. By August, I planned on having moved out of my parents' home.
So she wasn't upset about it?
She didn't seem upset, no.
No, she wasn't upset about that, so that's not a reason. I don't see any reason that she would have, quite frankly, Miss Lindsay, of making this phone call unless she had some legitimate concerns over the 3 children. And the fact that the state didn't find any gross abnormality in your house doesn't mitigate the fact that she felt as if you and your husband may have been a little overwhelmed with full-time jobs and 3 little children, working very hard. You have financial things in the works, private school and all that stuff. Whatever it was, I don't get from Miss Allen that she was being vindictive about anything.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do you remember when she bought your 4-year-old shoes?
She didn't have any bills.
You mean she didn't have any bills, so she should spend the money on your children?
And later today,
Your Honor, she was tricked. She was
Listen to
duped.
me, sir. She wasn't tricked.
Yes, I was. I was told it was slate, and it's not.
No, it doesn't say slate pool table. It says pool table.
Sandra Allen says former employers Dasher Lindsay and Ralph Isles owe for babysitting fees. The defendants are countersuing, claiming Sandra made false accusations to Child Protective Services.
You have a reason she might call?
I mean, my sister told me that she was going through personal issues.
Well, first of all, that's hearsay. Second of all, going through personal issues would not necessarily mean she would take it out on you.
Well, it doesn't make sense that she would call. The things that were going on did not happen. I mean, she put our kids in danger.
How did she put your kids in danger?
Because Child Protective Services could have took them away.
Well, they could have if they found that they were substantially neglected or abused. They absolutely could have, but we don't discourage people in this country if they have legitimate concerns from making a report to Child Protective Services so that somebody can come out and take a look at a situation and make sure everything is right. Problem is, too many people don't do anything. And unless I find that there was some motivation other than legitimate concern for the children's safety, I'm dismissing your counterclaim, and she's going to get the wages that were owed to her. Her mother seems to say, who is a lady that I assume you knew.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
That her daughter had confided in her previously that she was concerned about the children.
She never confided in us. Up until that day, Miss Allen and I had never had any problems communicating.
You may not have had any problems. Do you remember when she bought your 4-year-old shoes?
She bought my 2-year-old shoes.
Or your 2-year-old shoes? Do you remember when she did that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know why she did that?
I had just bought my 2-year-old shoes. She
Yeah,
did
we
it
have
because
the 2 pairs of shoes.
Yes.
It is unlikely that she would have spent her money, the hard-earned money that the $7 an hour, which is the
She
minimal
didn't have
amount.
any bills.
What?
She didn't have any bills.
I have bills.
She didn't have any bills, so she should spend the money on your children?
No,
We never
she liked
asked
doing
her
things
to.
for our children. She took them to McDonald's. She did things for them. That was.
So she was a really good caregiver.
Yes, she was.
We're not
Well,
She
then
had no right to
something-
call Child Protective
Yes,
Services.
she did.
There was nothing wrong with the way we
That's
raised
the
our
way,
children.
that's your perception, and you may be right. But if she's the kind of caregiver that you say she is, to her eye, these children were not being adequately cared for while in your care. And before the state takes children away, there has to be some overriding reason, because they got plenty of children in foster care. So if it's a question of children not getting more than noodle soup or not getting a bath every day, they're not going to remove children from a home. But that doesn't mean somebody who loves the children, as she clearly did according to you, should tolerate what she perceives as neglect. So your counterclaim is dismissed. You owe her $226 salary and $30 for gas. Pay her. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I've tried to talk to the parents on numerous occasions about different things.
She never tried to talk to us.
But they don't want to listen to me on different occasions, so why would they want to hear something about how their kids are being raised?
And she did, regardless of, what was said. She put our children in danger.
I did what I had to. If you feel like kids are being neglected, don't be afraid to call someone. You're not in the wrong.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Vas Nunes versus Moley. Step forward.
Alan and Terry Vas Nunes are suing Melissa Moley for the value of a pool table and bedroom set they sold her. The couple claims Melissa ultimately canceled her check.
Mr. and Mrs. Vas Nunes, you sold the defendant your home.
Yes.
And when you sold her your home, she also purchased a bedroom set and a pool table, independent of the purchase price of the home. I assume after the closing you moved out and she stopped payment on the check.
That is correct, Your Honor.
You want the money for the bedroom set and
Absolutely.
the pool table. Mrs. Moley says that the pool table was misrepresented to her as a slate pool table, and it's not a slate pool table. It's something called Slatron, and she's not paying for it. Was there a separate bill of sale for the furniture?
No, Your Honor.
And did the contract for the sale of the house provide anything about furniture?
No, Your Honor.
Miss Moley, how many times did you see the house before you purchased it?
A few times.
Well, what's a few? A couple is 2. A few is more than 2.
Yes.
Usually more than 3.
Yes, few.
Let's pause for a moment, and I want you to think how many times you were in the house before the closing.
3 times.
Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Very good. And on each of the 3 occasions, did you see the bedroom set?
I believe I did.
And on each of the 3 occasions, did you see the pool table?
Yes, I walked past it.
When you came to the house, did you come alone?
I came at different times, once with the real estate agent, once by myself, once my husband met me there.
Okay. When your husband met you there, it would only be natural for you to show him the bedroom set and the pool table.
We weren't looking at the bedroom set and the pool table. We were looking at the house.
I said it would only be natural to show him the bedroom set and the pool table if you were interested in buying it.
We weren't interested in buying it until after he had come. We had asked them later on if they were going to be selling any of the furniture.
Then I assume that your husband saw the bedroom set and
Yes,
the
he
pool
did.
table. So just answer my questions. Let's not play with each other. And I assume that when you went home with your husband, you discussed whether or not you would buy any of the furniture. That would be a logical thing to do.
Yes.
And both you and your husband decided that if they were prepared to sell the bedroom set and the pool table, you were interested in purchasing it.
I decided that, yes.
You decided that independently of your husband?
Yes, I did.
You felt as if you had the expertise to do that all by yourself?
Expertise as far as what? I just decided I was going to buy it.
And you made that decision yourself. How old are you?
39.
What kind of work do you do?
I stay home with the kids.
And your husband?
He works for Verizon.
And who makes the financial decisions in the house?
I do.
Okay. Now, On what date did you make this arrangement to sell the furniture, the pool table and the bedroom
In
set?
mid-January, after the contract and the approval to purchase my home, Ms. Moley had sent a piece of paper to my wife explaining she had interest in the bedroom set.
May I
and
see the
pool
piece of paper? Do you have it?
table. And then on...
You don't have the piece of paper.
On
No, I don't,
2/28,
Your Honor.
she wrote a check.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
That would be February 28th.
Yes, ma'am. But prior to that, on 2/18, she did come to the house the first time initially to view the bedroom set and the pool table with her son, and we opened our home to her.
Just 1 second.
Yes.
Miss Moley, did you write this out? Pool table, furniture?
Yes.
So this is your contract?
Yes.
You canceled this check?
Yes, and I gave them a new check for the $450. I tried to reach them by telephone. We went to closing on the 28th. On the 1st of March, I called Terry Vest Nunez on her cell phone, which she had given me. I left her a message stating that I was disappointed the pool table was not slate, like she had told me. She didn't call me back until 8 days later. So I attempted to reach them, couldn't get them. 8 days later...
Miss Moley, listen to me. You are responsible for this. This is your contract. Absent another writing, this is your contract. You agreed to purchase
a slate pool
from
table.
them. No, it doesn't say slate pool table. It says pool table. It doesn't say new. It doesn't say 2004. It doesn't say green. It doesn't say. It says pool table and furniture from them for $900. This forms your contract. And when you buy secondhand furniture, if you want to be specific, you can either do one of two things. You can have an expert come and look at it before you purchase it. That you can do. Who are you?
I'm her brother, Your Honor.
Did you look at it before she purchased it?
She had called me on the phone. May I stand up?
Sure.
She had called me on the phone, and she asked me that they're selling the pool table. I said, if it's slate, she says $450. I said, if it's slate, it's a score, buy it. If it's flake board, do not buy it. The humidity in New York will destroy it. It's no good. It's not worth anything.
Well, why didn't you come and look at it?
Because I live a distance away, and she was making that decision immediately, and I told her, do not buy it. She called them up. To confirm it, is it slate?
Listen to me. Sit down. You weren't there when she called him? You can't report on anything that she said?
She told me it was slate when I asked her. Prior to giving her the check, I said, is it slate or is it wood? She told me it was slate. She told me the difference between slate board and wood. The balls don't bounce, the wood won't warp. It's slate. I didn't go looking under the table.
Did you have a discussion with them about that?
Melissa called me on the telephone after I gave her the $900 quote for the furniture, and she asked me if the pool table was slate. I told her I didn't know. However, I do think that it's Slatron.
In any event, there was no discussion, and there's certainly no indication in any contract that $450 of this $900 is ascribed to the pool table. The fact that you decided that the bedroom furniture is worth $450...
I didn't decide that. They told me the breakdown. There was $450 for the table, $450 for the furniture.
Then you should have put it in the contract.
Your Honor, may I?
First of all, I don't believe that. I believe that what happened is they said, how much do you want for the pool table and for the furniture? And they said $900, or whatever they said, and you agreed on $900. In any event, you had no right to do this. When you buy secondhand items, it's up to you. It's a buyer beware. You have to make a judgment. And you had an opportunity to bring an expert in to look at the furniture. You had an opportunity to have your brother come down to take a look at it. But you gave them a check, and this is your contract. And your contract is to purchase a pool table and furniture. That's what you bought.
Your
You
Honor,
can't.
I'm sorry. She was tricked.
Listen to me, sir. She wasn't tricked.
Yes, I was. I was told it was slate, and it's not. And Mr. Vest Nunez wasn't there.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Neither was he. And what your brother said to you was, listen, if they're selling you, if they're dumb enough to sell you a slate pool table for $450, it's a score.
No,
to quote
that's
his,
not true.
That's exactly what he just
He
said
did
to
say
me.
that, but it costs money.
I'm speaking. That's what he said. He said, sis, if they're willing to sell you a slate pool table for $450, these idiots, it's a score. It's a steal. Buy it. So you thought you were getting a real bargain.
It would have
That's
been
what
a
he told
bargain
me.
for both of them.
Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's
Thank
all.
you very much, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step.
Stephanie Guichard is suing the mother of his child, Carrie Hess, for her share of their daughter's dental bills and for the cost of changing her birth certificate.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 154 on the calendar in the matter of Guichard versus Hess. Parties, you're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Gouchard, you and the defendant were involved in a relationship some time ago. That relationship produced a child. For most of her life, the child lived with her mother, and more recently, she came to live with you. Your lawsuit is an interesting one. It seeks the reimbursement of some medical or dental bills from the mother, and it also seeks the expenses of having the child's birth certificate changed to reflect your last name. I don't know what Ms. Hess's defense is, but I find your lawsuit quite interesting because I have a couple of questions. How old is your daughter?
17 and a half.
And when did she come to live with you?
August of last year.
And I assume that since she's been with her mother, you paid child support.
Correct.
In what amount?
Court order, $400 a month.
And you've paid that for how long?
Well, there was a recent order that was placed about 7 years ago that surrounds what I consider to be fraud at one particular time with her, I think it was her third husband.
She's had a lot of husbands.
Okay.
Is that right, Ms. Hess?
I've been married 3 times, Your Honor.
That's not correct.
She should know how many times she's been married.
Well, she's recently just had another child about 9 months ago. That would be number 4.
You've been married 3 times?
Yes.
I assumed that you knew how many times you were married, and you have 4 kids.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you currently under a child support order, Ms. Hess?
To pay child support to Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Have you taken her to court for child support?
Not at this time, for one particular reason.
Why?
When my daughter first came to live with me, or actually escaped to live with me, I did not want to seek a support order because she was 17, 1 more year, and it really didn't matter. But because the mother made the transition so ridiculous, I thought at this particular time that someone has to pay for this. For instance, she called the FBI on us when we were vacationing in Mexico and insisted that I had kidnapped my daughter.
Just a second. So you took your daughter out of the country to Mexico?
Correct.
And Mexico has the Brando law, which precludes you from bringing the child back into this country unless you have a letter from her indicating that it was fine for her to leave the country and to come back. There are lots of other places you can go. You should have been smart enough not to go to Mexico.
Her mother knew it.
What I'm telling you is, unless you had the letter from her indicating that she was fine with it, you shouldn't have taken your daughter to Mexico on vacation.
It had never been a problem in the past. There's another issue that came into play as well. Since the kidnapping that she tried to have a warrant issued on me didn't work, we came back to California. She's already enrolled in high school, doing fine. She called the Nampa Police Department, received a police officer that she manipulated there. That police officer called me at home, told me if I did not put my daughter on the next plane, she was going to swear out a warrant and have me arrested for kidnapping. And I said the officer needs to stand back and take a position and be objective because she's being manipulated by one of the best.
Mr. Gouchard, this is absolutely fascinating for a full-hour talk program.
Correct.
This
it would probably entail more.
This is not a lawsuit, sir. The fact that you are ticked off at Ms. Hess because she has made this transition difficult does not create a lawsuit. And if you wanted to sue her for support, you should have done that. And then the court is obliged, under the federal child support guidelines, to make an order of support commensurate with what she earns and what you earn and what the child's needs are. So I don't know why you choose to come to small claims court, sir.
Because I truly believe the family court system is slanted. I have filed the paperwork. I've got hundreds of letters asking for this. Nothing has been answered.
Well, you filed the papers for what?
For child support.
And what happened?
They're still waiting. It's still pending. They keep getting back to me saying, well, we'll get back to you. It's in someone else's hands, so on and so forth. But I still don't...
When did you file for child support?
Approximately 4 months ago.
Mr. Gouchard, when you live in one jurisdiction and the defendant lives in another jurisdiction, you proceed under the Uniform Reciprocal Child Support Enforcement Act. Each jurisdiction in this country is a signatory to that pact.
Correct. I'm aware of that.
Well, I want you to know that I'm aware of that.
I know you are.
Okay. So that you may have filed your petition 4 months ago, but what happens is the state here in California, first they type it up. Then they send the papers to the authority in Idaho. They have their own problems to deal with in Idaho. The ERISA proceedings are not high on the list of priorities of family court. They have child abuse, neglect, juvenile delinquency, And when they get around to it, they will serve her with a summons in the EURESA proceeding, and she will be summoned to court, and they will make an order.
I disagree with that because I know the status of what's happening. It hasn't even gotten off the desk in the Orange County and hasn't even been to Idaho as of yet.
Well, the fact that it hasn't gotten off the desk in Orange County, sir, has nothing to do with your agenda.
What I don't understand, and it's been explained to me by my family attorney, even if I don't have a support order, why is she off the hook for financial responsibility for her child?
Just a second. She is not.
Okay.
She is not. And the truth of the matter is, if you want to take the bull by the horns and buy yourself a plane ticket and go to Idaho and file a petition on behalf of your daughter, they will have to hear it much swifter than they would if they heard it under a EURESA proceeding. There's no question about that. So once
the district attorney works for the people. But why are they her personal secretary?
Mr. Gouchard, I'm not here to defend the jurisdiction of Orange County. That's not my job. My job is to decide whether or not you've been shortchanged, and whether or not, if you've been shortchanged, you have a legal claim in small claims court. And my problem with your case, initially, reading it was, I don't know what your beef was. You want her to pay for half the child's dental bills, and yet you have filed a proceeding in the family court for a support order, and you don't like the fact that it's taken too long. And what I'm suggesting to you is, if she's a passive-aggressive person and was hell-bent on making your life miserable when your daughter came to live with you...
She did it last night till 1 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't just then.
Mr. Gouchard, I didn't pick her.
I didn't either.
Oh, yes, you did.
Not for 30 days.
No, listen to me.
The extent of it.
Listen to me. I read your complaint very carefully, and there was a time, I assume, up until your daughter was 7 years old, that you believed that you had terminated your own parental rights by signing an affidavit allowing Miss Hess's then third husband to adopt her. When did you sign the document terminating your parental rights?
Are you going to allow me a little latitude here?
No, I want you to answer my question.
I can't remember the date. It was approximately 7 years ago. Well, no, I can't remember the exact date. It wasn't 7 years ago that I signed them. It was when she was about 7 years old. Those were signed.
When she was 7 years old.
Around that age.
From age 1 through 7. Just answer my questions.
Yes.
Were you under a support order?
Yes.
And what were you paying in support?
$400 a month.
Then, when the child was...
Yes. I have the original order.
I'd like to see it.
If you allow me a couple seconds to find it, I didn't know I was going to be bringing
Absolutely.
that
I'll
one
allow
up.
you a couple of seconds to answer my questions, not to vent. You want to vent, go to see a therapist. You're angry.
I'm not really that angry.
Anger doesn't make a lawsuit,
I'm more
Mr.
frustrated
Gouchard.
with you not allowing me the latitude to elaborate on a couple issues.
You'll just have to suffer with that, sir.
Yeah, perhaps.
No, I'm telling you, definitely. Shh, quiet.
Here's I believe, the original order.
Thank you.
And here is the order that some years later, after the alleged fraud incident for the adoption, that we went to court and everything was brought to light.
There is an order here dated December 19th, 1990. At that time, sir, there was an order entered of $400 a month. However, at that time, there were over $4,000 in arrears.
That was from retroactive.
No, it just said there were $4,000.
Well, that's what it was from. Here's what happened. It wasn't my child. We had to go through the DNA. If you look at the birth certificate, what happened is the two of them decided to get married. They put both their names on the birth certificate and told me I'm not to have any involvement. When her first husband decided that he got cold feet and wanted to get the heck out of there, he turned around and filed a divorce. She immediately came after me for support. I was married for about 45 days to 60 days at that time. She strategically served my wife, got in my wife's face and said, look, I'm here to stay for the next 18 years. You might want to rethink this marriage since it's new. She personally thought at that time that I was going to get back with her and have a new family.
There is an order that you've handed to me dated December 19th, 1990. In that order, Ms. Hess, I want you to listen to me very carefully as to what paragraph 3 says. It says both parties to share equally unreimbursed medical expenses of the minor child. That's what the order says. You want to read it?
There is a new order.
Shh. Why? Is this order hurting you?
No,
is the order that I just read hurting you?
No, ma'am.
Sometimes it's good just to be quiet. Now you'll have to give me the new order.
It says the same thing. But it's just what we recently threw expectations.
All I'm telling you is sometimes silence is golden, Mr. Gouchard.
I'd rather get to the facts.
And Mr. Gouchard, you want to get to the facts, and I said it to you before. You go to a therapist. You want to get to the law, you come to court.
I'm not talking about my personality. I'm talking
You
about
are
the
talking
facts.
about your personality, sir, because what you're here for is unreimbursed medical expenses. That's what you're here for. And if you have an order that calls for her to pay for unreimbursed medical expenses, she hasn't done it. That's what I'm here to deal with. Not that you couldn't enjoy your trip to Mexico.
I wasn't talking about necessarily the trip
Could
to
we
Mexico.
please have the updated order?
Yeah, I've got a mess here. I've told you I'm trying.
Well, but I had one that I was very happy with. You his wife? Get him into therapy.
Actually, my daughter's been in therapy.
She probably needs it.
Yeah, I would after spending 16 years and 6 husbands and all the abuse. Yes, she does.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You are so angry and need a forum for your anger.
Correct.
So badly. This is not it, Mr. Gouchard.
And later today,
I'm going to waste not one further moment on this case. Between the two of them, I don't think we can put together a 3-digit IQ.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anthony Gouchard claims the mother of his child, Carrie Hess, owes for her share of their daughter's dental bills.
Do you have an order in your file after December 19th, 1990?
No, Your Honor, that was the original order.
Good.
In fact, Your Honor, everything he's saying, I mean, we took notes. Everything he's saying is a lie.
Listen to me. Not everything he's saying is a lie.
Oh, okay, not everything.
Not everything, madam, that he's saying to me is a lie. You know, I've been in this business for a lot of years, and I know an awful lot about one-night or 30-day stands that produce a child that can tend to aggravate you over the next 18 or 21 years. Been there, seen it, done it all. And I know about how you feel that your daughter lived with you for 16 and a half years, and then she decides to go and live with her father, and that can be very irritating, and that you decided that this transition was not going to be made happily. There's no question in my mind that you knew that he had not kidnapped your daughter, that he wasn't holding her for ransom, that he wasn't chaining her in some basement, and you decided to make his life a little miserable. There isn't a question in my mind about that. It's not that I don't care. That's not before me. It's not something I can do something about. What I can do something about is if I have an order that provides that you pay for 1/2 of her unreimbursed medical care, that's what you do. Period. Clear?
Yes,
Good.
Your Honor.
Where does this say that she
The
shall
first
pay?
paragraph. It says we're both responsible. We are both responsible for the health and
No,
responsible.
that's not what it says, sir.
Well, read it to me. I don't understand it then.
Well, you
Please.
seem like a very intelligent man. Maybe I'll let your wife read it to you.
No, I
it
can
says,
read it for you.
It says, both parents shall have the right and responsibility to make decisions.
Right.
Decisions relating to health, education, and the welfare of the child. It doesn't say
That's
anything
right.
about money.
It says responsibility for paying for the health and the education.
No.
It's very simple. That was...
Mr. Gouchard, that's not, sir.
So she's
What it-
released of all financial responsibility
don't
and
you
can have
just-
children left and right.
Listen, I can't deal with you anymore, sir.
I can't.
I can't deal with you anymore, sir, because if you just kept your mouth shut 5 minutes ago, this is an order that says very clearly that each parent shall be responsible for 1/2 of the unreimbursed medical expenses for the child. Not decision-making. That's what this says. Not decision-making, payment. But you are so angry and need a forum for your anger.
Correct.
So badly. This is not it, Mr. Gouchard, and I understand you're angry. Unfortunately, sir, you picked the wrong forum. Your case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's still disrupting my life, and it never ends.
Most of what he just said were lies.
I think the people should have to fill out an application before they have children.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Greenwood versus Bolden and Zaplicki, step forward, please.
26-year-old Jamie Greenwood is suing her former friends, 23-year-old Brad Bolden and his girlfriend Holly Zaplicki, for the cost of 2 airplane tickets to Mexico.
According to your complaint, this large extended group was planning a trip to Mexico.
Correct.
And either one or both of them asked you to book the tickets for them. because you were booking a block of tickets.
Correct.
You did that. Somebody had an emergency in the family. Who was it? You.
Yes.
And they told you they weren't going. Tickets that you purchased on your credit card were non-refundable. You want them to assume the responsibility for those tickets. They do not deny that they asked you to book the tickets, correct?
Correct.
And they do not deny that you booked the tickets, correct?
Correct.
So I now hear your defense.
The reason why I can't go on the trip is because my father's ill. He has bad diabetes, and had paperwork here for my job. I only had 4 vacation days left for my job, so during that time I was going to use those 4 days to go down on the trip. And I stated to her that I have FMLA for my father.
You have what?
FMLA is like family leave for my job, and when you use the time up for my father, they took my vacation days from me. So that's the main reason why I really can't go on the trip. And I didn't tell her to book it on her credit card. She didn't tell us nothing about it going on her credit card. She didn't tell
Well, what
me.
did you think she was going to do, pay cash?
No, we had a due date to get the rest of the money. We gave her $500 down to reserve part of it, and she said she'd give us the rest of the money on June 10th, give her the rest of the $2,300 to give to her. So I was going to give her that money on the due date. She didn't say nothing about no credit card or nothing like that. I was paying cash for it. I ain't tell her to do it on a credit card. She took it a month herself to put it on her credit card.
What's your name, Bolden?
Yes.
Get it together. Maybe 0.1% of the people in this country, when they book a vacation, go to the airlines and pay them cash.
Yeah.
I don't know a soul that does that, and I know a lot of people. Did you ever go down to the airlines in the past 10 years and pay them in cash?
No.
You use your credit card.
That's
Call
right.
up, or you go book online, you type in your credit card, you give the operator your credit card, and that's the way you book a ticket to go away.
She didn't tell me.
Listen! She doesn't have to tell you unless you're living on Pluto. I want you to look out at the gallery here in court today. Turn around. How many of you have been on an airline within the last 5 years? Raise your hands. Turn around, look. Put your hands down. How many of you have gone and paid cash to the airline for your ticket? Raise your hand. You got it?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. People don't do that. How much does he owe you?
In total, $972.58.
She had called my house and said it was $890-some. She never said nothing about no $900 and some.
Well, what do you think happens to the $876 when you don't pay it at all?
Well, she could have told us that first if she was putting something on a credit card, because we're not the only people that she did that to.
Yeah, because I have
She did it to you. What do you
She's
mean
not
she
the
did
only
it
person.
To you. Do you have children?
I have 3.
How old are you?
25.
Ay. Listen, I'm going to waste not one further moment on this case. Between the two of them, I don't think we can put together a 3-digit IQ. I'm not going to be able to explain that to them. Is that what's on the credit card for their portion of the trip?
Correct.
$972. That's what you owe her. Pay her.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
21-year-old Beth Garcia is suing her boyfriend's ex, 21-year-old Jamie Petola, for keying profanities into the side of her car. Jamie denies the charge.
Your Honor, this is case number 38 on the calendar in the matter of Garcia versus Petola.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Miss Garcia, the defendant is your current boyfriend's ex-girlfriend.
And also the mother of his child.
Where is your boyfriend today?
He couldn't make it because he's had too many issues with her and pending court problems with her that he has to take care of. So that's why he couldn't make it.
He didn't have any pending court matters today, did he?
None
None at all.
Hmm?
None at all. He never
None at all.
has.
But he decided to take the high road and just be absent, even though he probably created all of these problems to begin with. Now, when did you last live with, what's his first name?
E. Lincoln.
E. Lincoln?
E. Lincoln.
E. period Lincoln?
Yes.
Well, what's his first name?
E. Lincoln.
There's no period between the E and the Lincoln. It's just E. Lincoln.
E. Lincoln. When did you first live with E. Lincoln?
When was the first I lived with him?
Yeah. First, give me the year.
Probably it was 2001.
And when did you last live with him?
2005.
When in 2005?
Around February, March.
And when did you start to be involved with Mr. Lincoln?
We officially were involved in October.
Of 2006?
2005.
Before a friend.
So there was a little overlapping?
No. Yes. I was living with them and she knew.
Okay, so there was a little overlap.
Yeah.
They
were
weren't
keeping it
together.
Shh. Yeah.
Hey. There was some overlapping. Now, it is your claim, Ms. Garcia, that the defendant vandalized your car, not on one occasion, but on multiple occasions.
Yes.
And despite the fact that you never saw her vandalize your cars, you have proof by way of admissions that she did, in fact, vandalize your
Yes.
cars. When was the first time your car was vandalized?
On the morning of October 23rd, 2005 was when I noticed it, so it was that night.
Okay. And what was the nature of the vandalism?
She had keyed...
Don't tell me what she did.
She keyed
Someone.
profane
No, no,
words.
listen to me.
Someone. Shh. Someone keyed profane words on my hood, my driver's door, and the back driver's door, because it's a 4-door, and put key marks on the rest of it, and knocked off the driver's side mirror.
Okay. Do you have photographs of the car?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them. Now, with regard to this incident in October, what proof do you have that the defendant was responsible?
Well, before my involvement with E. Lincoln, I believe he said it was like in 2002.
Don't tell me what he said to you. That's hearsay.
In 2002, his vehicle was vandalized the same exact way.
You cannot tell me anything that he said to you, because that is hearsay. Do you have any proof that the defendant committed that vandalism on your car?
I have a police recording because on the night of January 3rd, 2006, she was calling my phone saying, I'm going to vandalize your vehicle again. My roommate...
Okay, so you have a recording.
Yes, and the police report that stating that the police...
Let me see it, please.
That he heard the recording.
Where is the recording now?
They couldn't get it through, but we do have it, but it's real fuzzy. But the
She
police
probably messes with the cop. She probably messes with the cop.
No.
She probably talks to the cop.
I'm not speaking to you.
Sorry.
Car was damaged again when?
The next damage was on March 6, 2006.
Okay. With regard to the March incident, you told the police that it could have been any one of 3 people.
Right. Sorry.
I'm already convinced, madam, that you damaged her car in October. Already convinced based upon the police report. You want to be responsible for March too?
No.
Then keep your mouth shut. You told the police with regard to the March incident that it could have been any of 3 people. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Those 3 people are her friends.
I don't care. You're not responsible for your friends, Ms. Garcia. So you have no proof with regard to March 6th. Is that correct?
That's correct, but then there was another one.
When?
April 10th. And that one, both the taillights were broken off and both the side mirrors were broken off.
Did you have any conversation with the defendant about what happened to your car?
After the January 3rd conversation was the only conversation.
Okay. You want to explain yourself, madam, with regard to the October 23rd, 2005? You want to explain yourself to me?
I didn't do it.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Then why, madam, when the police got you on the phone, which they did?
Why isn't there? She probably talks to
Just
the
a
cop.
second. Would you get her out of here? Thank you. Get her out of here. Why did you hang up the phone when a policeman identified himself on the phone?
Because when a person says the police are on the phone, you don't know if you could go to jail for something stupid or not. She played on my phone up until she called the cops on purpose, and then that's when I called back and was arguing with her because she told my son when he stayed at his house with my ex-boyfriend that she don't like me and all this other type of stuff. So I called her and was, arguing with her or whatever. And then she was like, you did this to my car or whatever. She had the police right there. So he probably was hanging out at her house because she talks to a lot of people and she goes downtown and she talks to cops and stuff. So he probably was sitting right there maybe. Maybe that's the case. I'm serious.
Let me see the estimate for the damage to your car on October 23rd,
This is the one
2005.
from the October
Police
23rd.
officers indicated that they heard the recording. Your recording.
I didn't get no police report.
I don't care whether you got it or not. I got it.
They didn't say nothing to me.
Listen to me. I got it. I'm speaking. You don't have to help me.
She don't really know who did it, nothing to her car. It's so many people. She sleeps around with people she don't know.
Listen, Miss Attitude. You were annoyed with her because she was bad-mouthing you to your... I'm speaking. This is what you just told me. You're shaking your head no.
No.
You're shaking your head no. You just told me you were angry with her because she had bad-mouthed you to your son. That's why you were yelling at her on the phone.
Right.
Because she had bad-mouthed you to your son. That was the conversation that you said was overheard by the police officer.
Right, then
that was listen to me. That was after her car was vandalized in October.
Why didn't I call her before and argue with her if I messed up her car or somebody else was messing up her car? Just because I called and argued with her, that don't got nothing to do with me.
Garcia played officers a message on her cell phone left today by Jamie stating, amongst other things, that she was going to damage her vehicle once again. According to the officer, now implicating herself in the previous incident. Ryder was present when Jamie then called back Garcia and heard her repeatedly use profanity when she was addressing Garcia. Ryder attempted to speak with Jamie, however, she hung up on the phone when the Ryder identified himself as a police officer.
Right, I hung up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You also said to her that you were going to damage her car again.
I did not say that.
So the police are lying?
Yeah.
And later today,
If the foot got stuck between the gas and the brake, it's your fault.
I was wearing my work boots at the time, which are larger than normal size shoes.
You made babies with him.
Beth Garcia claims her boyfriend's ex, Jamie Petola, vandalized her car by keying it.
She or her friends probably did the damage to your car. Unfortunately, you can't prove it, but you can certainly, you've established to my satisfaction, based on the fact that she was angry with you, based upon the fact that she knows that E. Lincoln was two-timing her. You may or may not have known it, but she knew it.
Yes.
October 23rd, 2005, was that on or about the same time that you had this discussion with your son?
No, it just was recently when the first time I called her, the time that she taped me.
That was not the first conversation was. I had to have my phone cut off.
No, that wasn't just recently, madam. It wasn't just recently. That was 4 months ago.
I know. That was the last time I talked to her.
How did you get her phone number?
She called my phone playing on it with her phone number. That's how I got it.
So what did you call her back for?
Because she was arguing and playing on my phone, so I called her back to see who it was, and I cussed her out for playing on my phone.
You also said to her that you were going to damage her car again.
I did not say that.
So the police are lying?
Yeah.
The police are
lying?
lying?
No, I don't think the police are lying. I think maybe it's one of her friends or something.
No. Police were lying?
No, I'm not going to say the police were lying, but...
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,619. That's all. Stay away from her car.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was supposed to be her witness. Why ain't he here?
Jealousy, because she wants him back.
If that's her boyfriend, if that's, what happened, he knows somebody else did it too.
But he doesn't want her back.
She has a whole bunch of enemies she gets around.
He can't stand to see that he's with someone else and doesn't want her back at all.
I've been moved on. I have a boyfriend. She can have him.
Simple-minded and psychotic.
Yeah, it's done and over.
She needs to get a life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Vermeulen versus Vermeulen. Step forward, please.
Kate Vermeulen is suing her ex-husband, James Vermeulen, for the unpaid balance on a Saturn he totaled.
Mrs. Vermeulen, this is your former husband, and according to your complaint, you swapped cars with each other because your mother was coming to visit. You needed a larger car. That was last summer. So it's nice to hear that there was at least a reasonable relationship that you had so that you accommodated your former wife, because you have children together, so that she would use a larger car that was yours. And in any event, you wrecked her car. And there was an outstanding loan on the car. The car was, in fact, totaled. And your former wife feels as if you should be responsible for the difference between what the insurance company paid on the car and the amount of the loan that she's still responsible for. And that amount is $3,634. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have a counterclaim because you say at the time she borrowed your car, she had a minor fender bender, but damaged the bumper of the car.
Correct.
To the tune of about $800, and she should pay that.
Yes.
That's your counterclaim. But let's get to the big-ticket item here, Mr. Vermeulen. When did you total her car?
I believe it was August 10th. I was on my way to work.
8/10. And when did you damage the bumper to his car?
Actually, it was so minor that I don't have the exact date.
Okay, but you called and told him about it?
Yes.
Okay. And you have a picture of it, I'm sure.
Yes, I do. I have a picture of the damages that were done to the bumper and actually an imprint.
Okay.
Your Honor, it was September 5th, I do believe, when he ruined my car, when he totaled my vehicle.
Why do you think that it was August 10th, sir?
I thought that was the day.
Well, it wasn't. It was September.
In September?
Yeah, because she would have a police report with regard to it.
Okay, I didn't know that there was any police report. I wasn't charged in the accident.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? So it wasn't in August, it was September. That's a big difference.
Sorry.
How do you account for that difference?
I don't know, Your Honor. I was working at that time there. I wasn't really paying attention to the date.
When did you swap cars?
Probably a couple days before her mother arrived. She was
Which was
coming
when?
in for England. Near the end of the summer, which was
In August?
In August.
Now, it's clear that, according to your answer, sir, that the accident was your fault, that your foot got stuck, according
Correct.
to you, on the gas pedal.
Between the gas pedal and the brake, Your Honor.
So it was your fault, right?
I guess if that's the way that you see it, yes, Your Honor.
Well, sir, unless you were driving a very unique car, the gas pedal was put in by the factory. It remained in the same spot. The brake was put in by the factory. It remained in the same spot. You were familiar with the car. You had had it for some time. According to your answer, my foot got stuck between the gas and the brake. You want me to read you what you signed?
No, Your Honor.
So if the foot got stuck between the gas and the brake, it's your fault.
Okay.
Those two things didn't move together.
I was wearing my work boots at the time, which are larger than normal size shoes. I was on my way to work, and it is a sports car. The gas pedals are closer together. I drive a truck, Your Honor.
Well, whose fault is that, sir? The car's fault or your fault?
It was an accident.
No, sir. If you're wearing big boots and it's a small car, you take your boots, you put it in the back of the car, and you wear shoes that don't get stuck between the gas pedal and the brake. The car can't accommodate your work boots, right?
Right, Your Honor.
You have to accommodate the car, right?
Correct.
So it's your fault. Now tell me why you believe that you're not responsible for the difference between what the insurance company paid and what your former wife has to pay on the loan.
I believe it's not my fault due to the fact that I wasn't charged with the accident, reckless driving, careless driving. I had a medical report that says that there was no drugs or alcohol involved. I also had her insurance company clear me of all liabilities in relations to her car.
You made babies with him. Just because, sir, you weren't found guilty of a crime, that there was no drugs, alcohol, you weren't speeding, doesn't mean that the accident wasn't your fault. It was your fault. You just said to me I was wearing big work boots. This was a sports car. It doesn't accommodate those kind of shoes. My foot got stuck between the two pedals, and I lost control of the car. And I just tried to explain to you what a normal person of reasonable intelligence would understand, that the car can't accommodate your shoes. Your shoes have to accommodate the car. Now, do you have a picture of the damage she did to the bumper of your car?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it. And an estimate on having it fixed.
I have an estimate right here.
Sir, you brought me an estimate from this place for $1,154?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, would you explain to me why?
I'm only asking to cover the parts, the actual bumper itself, and have it painted there. I'm not asking for taxes, labor, insurance there. Originally, I asked her to pay for half because she is still entitled on her vehicle. She's entitled on the insurance, and she's still
Did you have
liable.
insurance on the car?
Yes, I did.
And what was the deductible?
$500, Your Honor.
So that all you're going to pay for is $500.
And then you're going to have a claim with your insurance company, and your insurance will go up. I decided to pay for the claim out of pocket rather than going through my insurance company and having my deductibles raised.
Well, what do you think's going to happen to her insurance, sir? Because you totaled her car. What do you think is going to happen to her insurance company that had to pay out a totaled car?
I'm quite aware that she's going to have a claim with her insurance company, and her deductible will probably go up as well as her insurance payments.
So you mean you want me to give you a benefit and not her?
I'm not asking for special treatment.
Yes, you are, sir. What you're saying is I decided that I didn't want to go through my insurance. So I decided to pay for it myself. And therefore, instead of just paying for the deductible, which I believe should be responsible for paying, if you in fact fix the car, then what you're saying is I want her to pay the additional amount, which is $822, which is the cost of the bumper, which is what you're suing for. Because if I went through the insurance, my insurance premiums would go up. That's
Correct.
what you're saying to me.
Yes.
But her insurance premiums are going to go up substantially more than yours, sir, because they had to pay out on a new car, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Say nothing. You had to pay out $3,634. From that, I'm deducting $500. I'm awarding you on your claim $3,100. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now I want to see where you fixed the car. You have a bill for fixing the car?
That was a quote there. I've had the work done since
Where?
I paid for the...
Show me.
I paid for the parts.
Show me.
I don't have that with me, Your Honor.
Well, why did you bring me this, sir?
That is a quote of what it would cost at a body shop to get it done. What I paid for out of pocket was the parts and the paint.
Why, sir, wouldn't you bring me the actual cost of what it cost to fix the car?
I didn't have the bills at the time. It was short notice. I didn't care at the time, Your Honor. I didn't really save the bills there. I didn't plan on coming to court. I didn't think I was going to be in court today.
When did you get this?
When did I got that?
Yes.
3 days before I knew I was going to be in court.
Well, put your hand down. Instead of getting this estimate for work that was never going to be done, because according to you already did the work, right?
Correct.
So this is bogus.
It's not bogus.
This is bogus. So instead of wasting the time to take the car in to see what it would be to fix the car, which according to you already fixed, so it would be difficult for them to give you an estimate on fixing a car that was already fixed, because you said you fixed it. Why didn't you, instead of getting this estimate, go back to the place where you bought the parts and say, I lost a copy of the bill. Can I please have a copy of the bill for the parts?
I could ask for the original copy. I could send them to you.
Why did you waste time getting this instead of getting the receipts for the actual work?
I have no answer for that, Your Honor.
Well, then you're not getting a thing. Strike it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,634. Your counterclaim is dismissed. You did a lot of fast talking, sir. Did not impress me. That's all. Step out.
If the parties are excused, you may step out.
Hi, xin chào mọi người. Hôm nay mình sẽ cùng nhau nấu món mướp xào thịt. Đây, mướp xào thịt heo. Nguyên liệu thì chỉ có mướp và thịt heo thôi. Thì bây giờ mình sẽ bắt đầu vào nấu nhé. Rồi bây giờ mình sẽ ướp thịt nha mọi người. Một ít bột nêm nè. Ít mì chính. Rồi thêm một xí nước mắm nữa thôi nghe. Rồi cái này mình sẽ trộn đều lên và để qua một bên nha. Mình sẽ dùng là bằng tỏi dầu. Rồi tiếp theo là mình sẽ giờ mình sẽ xào cho tới khi mà cái mướp mình nó chín nó cong lại nha. Trong quá trình đợi mướp chín thì mình sẽ cho gia vị rồi. Vì lúc nãy trong thịt mình cũng có ướp, bây giờ mình sẽ cho xí bột nêm nữa thôi để cho cái mướp mình nó có gia vị thôi. Mình không cho thêm gì nữa, mình cho thêm nữa là nó sẽ dễ bị lạ đó. Xí nước rồi, mình cho xí nước vào vì mướp nó chưa ra nước kịp, cho nên mình sẽ cho một xí nước để cho mướp của mình nó không bị cháy á, trong quá trình mình nấu.
tam lại rồi, không còn tráng như lúc mà nó còn sống nữa. Nó tam lại là nó đã chín rồi đó. Rồi mình sẽ cho thêm một xíu hành vào đây. Rồi tắt bếp và cho ra dĩa luôn nha. Mình đã hoàn thành xong món ướp xào thịt rất là thơm ngon luôn. Cái này mình có thể dùng làm canh cũng được. Nếu như mình muốn ăn ít canh thì mình lấy cái nước này nè, thì cho mình làm canh với cơm cũng rất là ngon. Rồi cảm ơn mọi người đã coi video của mình nhé. Bye bye.